Can anybody hear me?
I hear you, Bob.
Okay, good. Thank you. Steve, it's Chris. While we're waiting, I have no idea where you guys are talking about Valley Vision. I've got nothing from them. Can you give me a hint?
Yeah. Karen may know the actual name. It came in the legislative email under. With Karen, she's not there.
I can. This is Mary Seavey, and I can answer that for you because I sit on that board. It's at Channel 3 Valley Vision.
No, he was trying to. Mary, he's looking for the contact we had for.
I think it was from Wayne Byer.
Wayne Byer.
Oh yeah, Wayne. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, Wayne Byer, yeah. Chris. But it came through a legislative email.
Yeah, he's gonna be doing a program on there. He does several of them already on there.
Again, I got nothing. I went through 4 different emails, and I have accounts. I got nothing from him, but I'd be glad to do something if you want some help participating.
I'll forward it out to you when we get done this meeting.
Okay, thank you.
I'm looking for the agenda.
Melissa, would you mind sending that out to everybody again?
It came in your packet. It was about in the middle of all the paper for me. If you got the mail packet.
Yes, I'll send it out.
I did get the packet. I looked through it. I didn't see it, but I'll check again.
I say mine was about halfway through.
Okay.
Melissa, we can't see your face.
Okay, we got a couple extra minutes for everybody to get settled.
I found the agenda in my packet. It was about two-thirds of the way through. Thanks, Jerry.
Yeah, you're welcome, man.
Fantastic. Everybody all set?
Probably as set as we ever are.
I will call the meeting in order. Representative Nelson has a flag in his window. If everybody would like to say the Pledge of Allegiance. Representative Deshays, you want to lead us off?
Of course. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
United States of America. And to the
republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now you can see why we don't try singing on Zoom, because the latency is really bad.
Yeah, I got mixed up on this there for a second because I just heard 1,000 voices pledging their allegiance to the flag.
Fantastic. I would ask if you're not speaking, just to mute so we don't have any background noise. Would the clerk call the roll to make sure we have a quorum present and members present?
Of course. Representative Marsh.
I am present, and I am currently at home alone in Brooklyn.
Representative Deshays, I am present, and I'm currently alone in a room of my house in Wolfboro. Representative Bucco.
Yes, I'm present, and I'm at home in Conway, and I'm alone. I don't know what that sound is. It's coming from somebody's background.
Representative Cordelli, I think that might be feedback on your end, unless it's my end. And speaking of,
I am. Are you calling me?
Yeah, Representative Cordelli, are you here?
Thank you. Yes, I am here. I am alone in my bunker.
Representative Crawford.
I am here and my husband's in the other room.
Representative Nelson,
Here in Brookfield, I'm alone.
Representative Knurk,
I am here in my home in Freedom. I'm alone, except for my wife, who will be leaving within a couple of minutes to go to work.
Representative Burrows,
I'm here, I'm in Bartlett. My husband will be in the house, but I'm in the basement alone.
Representative McDonald,
I am home alone in Wolfboro.
Representative Woodcock,
I am home with my wife and dog in Center Conway, and the dog will be the one that barks.
Representative McConkey,
Here in Freedom with my staffer, Jacob.
Representative Umberger,
Yes, I'm in my home in Kearsarge, and my husband is in the house.
Representative McAleer,
I'm home in Jackson, and I've actually got a workman working in the kitchen.
Representative Smith,
I am here alone in the town of Ossipee in a storage closet.
and Chairman Avalani.
I am in my back dining room, and I am not alone because I have employees here.
We have full attendance, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Representative Shays. Do we have any additions to the agenda anybody would like to make, add?
Yeah, and if you want to sit over there, we put the camera on you. Or
Seeing none, move to approve the minutes of January 11th.
So move. Second.
Thank you. Thank you, Representative Marsh. Who was the second? Representative Woodcock.
And then Joe.
Clerk, would you call the roll?
Yep. Representative Marsh,
Votes yes.
Representative DeShays votes yes. Representative Bucco,
Yes.
Representative Cordelli,
Yes.
Representative Crawford,
Yes.
Representative Nelson,
Yes.
Representative Knurk,
Yes.
Representative Burrows,
Yes.
Representative McDonald,
Yes.
Representative Woodcock,
Yes.
Representative McConkey,
Yes.
Representative Umberger,
Yes,
Representative McAleer,
Yes,
Representative Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Avalani.
Yes.
Approval of the minutes of last meeting's minutes passes unanimously 15-0.
Thank you. Do we have any public input?
Mr. Chairman, can I just ask a question? I don't know if this is the place for it, just for some clarification.
Certainly, Representative Smith.
So, obviously, the county facility has been shut down. I already had some people asking me. Obviously, I have constituents both as a state representative and as a selectman within the town of Ossipee here. Has the commissioners released a statement as to why the facility has been shut down? Is it due to health concerns? Is it COVID? Is it a facility problem? I just want to be able to explain it to my people.
Thank you for your comments. Any further comments? Melissa, do you see any on the chat?
No, I don't, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Then we'll close public input. Do the commissioners have a response to that comment, or if they would like to make a response to that comment?
Lino?
Commissioner McCarthy.
Right, I'm having a hard time. I can't see you. I can hear you, but, and what was the question? I'm having a hard time, so go ahead. Can you repeat it?
Would you like me to repeat it?
Yes, Representative Smith, would you repeat your question?
Yes, I will. So, thank you, Mrs. Chairman. My question is, it was obviously the the county facility has been shut down at the moment. Obviously, you didn't put an explanation on the town webpage. I've already had some constituents ask me, being that I'm a selectman of the town of Ossipee and as a state representative, as to why it's been shut down. And obviously, I told them I don't know. So I'm just wondering if you can give clarification as to why the the county operations have been shut down temporarily for public access.
There has been a notice put out. I'm not sure if it is on the website yet, but the reason for the decision by the board to shut down the administration building, not for business but for public. We were notified yesterday that we've been exposed to COVID-19. We have cases in the jail, and since jail personnel have been in the administration building, we felt it for our responsibility for the county employees is their health and the families that they go home to, that the admin building would be shut down temporarily until we get the full scope of what's going on.
Okay, thank you. And I just would like to give, say my prayers go out to those who are sick, and I wish them a well and speedy recovery. And I just thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification, Madam Chair.
Welcome.
We can move. Yep, thank you. We can move on to White Horse Addiction Center. There was a couple of questions at the last meeting. Representative Smith, have your concerns been answered?
Yes, it was a thorough report, and tell Mitch Eaton I appreciated it. He might be watching, but I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, he is. Any further discussion?
I'd like to move that we provide the dollars to the White Horse Addiction Center.
So that would be the amount. Thank you. That would be the amount of $150,000, Representative Umberger?
Yes, I'm sorry I didn't have that right here. I apologize.
Oh, that's okay. Motion, and who was the second?
I'll second it.
All right, I heard two. I couldn't make out who they were. I apologize.
Mr. Chairman, I got Umberger for the motion and McConkey for the second.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Any further discussion? Seeing none.
Mr. Chairman?
I apologize, Representative Cordelli.
No problem.
Didn't see you.
I would like to offer an amendment to the main motion, and that being that the funding is dependent upon completion of a new memo of understanding between the county and the White Horse facility.
So moved. Do we have a second?
Mr. Chairman, I will second that.
Thank you, Representative Smith. Any further discussion on the amendment?
Yes, if I could.
Of course, Representative Umberger.
Thank you. I'm not sure that we really need an agreement. I think that what we need is to ensure that White Horse provides quarterly expenditure reports to the commissioners. Because the agreement, as I understand it, was initially set up because it was a new organization, and I'm not sure that's required anymore. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Umberger. Any further discussion on the amendment?
Mr. Chair?
Representative Cordelli.
Thank you. I just think that this is by far the largest regional appropriation that we have And I think as such, we should have a memo of understanding.
Thank you, Representative.
Mr. Chairman. Chair.
Again, I got three or four voices. Representative Woodcock.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick question. Do we have a protocol or a process that's equal for all of our agencies that require the quarterly reports that Representative Umberger was talking about, or the memorandum of understanding? I think it should be at least equal for everyone, whatever we're asking for, or the commissioner asking for.
Thank you, Representative Woodcock. That is a good point. Would any of the commissioners like to answer that question? Commissioner Platt.
Yeah,
it's
my understanding that we do not have that sort of agreement or MOU with everybody, with all the recipients of the money. It's my feeling that we should take a look at this process this year, how we're making these awards, and we should come up with a procedure for doing so that's consistent. I know we have some policies in place, including not the policy against double dipping, but I don't know that it's been followed consistently. I believe there's been some misunderstanding on that. So being new to this process, not having been involved in the decisions, I can't say a lot about it, but I think it's a good idea to have this kind of MOU when you're giving $150,000 to any one group. It's a lot of money.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. Representative Woodcock, did that answer your question?
Yes, sir, it does. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any further discussion? I thought I had somebody else. Being no further.
Yes, this is Representative Marsh.
Go ahead, Representative Marsh.
Yes, I am intending to vote in favor of this appropriation this year, but I want to point out that I think it's inordinately large compared to some of the other organizations, and that I agree entirely that we ought to treat all the organizations fairly going forward, but clearly there's not time to do that for this year's budget.
Thank you, Representative. Any further discussion?
Call the roll.
Clerk, call the roll on the amendment.
Question, watch.
Okay. Representative Marsh.
I reluctantly vote no.
Representative Deshays reluctantly votes no also. Representative Bucco.
No.
Representative Cordelli.
Yes.
Representative Crawford.
No.
Representative Nelson.
Yes.
Representative Knirk.
No.
Representative Burrows.
No.
Representative McDonald.
No.
Representative Woodcock.
No.
Representative McConkey.
Yes.
Representative Umberger.
No.
Representative McAleer. Representative McAleer.
No.
Representative Smith.
Yes.
Representative Avalani.
Votes no.
The motion fails. I believe 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 6, 7, 8, 9. Motion fails 11-4 for the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Any further discussion on the main motion to fund it for $150,000? Mr. Clerk, call the roll.
Yeah, just 1 second. I'm finishing up what the exact motion was. Sorry about that. Representative Marsh.
Votes yes.
Representative Shays votes yes. Representative Bucco.
Yes.
Representative Cordelli.
Yes.
Representative Crawford.
Yes.
Representative Nelson.
Yes.
Representative Knirk.
Yes.
Representative Burrows.
Yes.
Representative McDonald.
Yes.
Representative Woodcock.
Yes.
Representative McConkey.
Yes.
Representative Umberger.
Yes.
Representative McAleer.
Yes.
Representative Smith.
Yes.
Chairman Avalani.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously, 15 to nothing.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. I hope that the commissioners and Mr. Eaton heard the discussion here today and will work towards some of those concerns. RSVP.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Eaton.
Thank you.
Yep. RSVP, there was a question on the amount of the appropriation. I think that was Representative Umberger had that question.
What was that, Lino? I don't think I asked a question on RSVP.
No, because it went from 75,000 to 80,000. I think you wanted clarification, or somebody wanted clarification, if I'm not mistaken.
I think Representative Alvani, I think the question, if I recall it correctly, was they wonder why the request was $5,000 more than the commissioners than the proposal. I think that was the question.
Thank you, Representative Woodcock. Commissioner McCarthy, would you fill us in on that, please?
Happy to. The previous Board of Commissioners felt that it was the most economical way to help the senior citizens in the full county. They have been unable to do any fundraising this year at all. They're a complete volunteer service. And I believe that Mary is on here to give you some facts and figures if you would like.
I am. I'll be willing to answer any questions I can for you.
Thank you, Ms. Seavey. Any further questions on RSVP? Did that satisfy everybody's question on that?
Lino?
Yes, Representative Umberger.
I don't necessarily have a problem with the raising the amount, but is this because the services have increased without the fundraising, or is it because of the shortage in the fundraising area?
Well, definitely. I'll answer that. We were unable to. We charge for nothing. Let me begin with that. We charge for none of the services we do. It's all offered free. So we totally function through grant writing, fundraising, and an annual appeal that we do. This year we were down like about 47,000 that we raise ourselves to support the program. We were the only one during COVID. We've been, I believe, the only one in Carroll County that's managed to keep ourselves going, transporting people that needed the transportation, be it for cancer treatments, for dialysis, for all. So we've our drivers. We've been very lucky to have Dr. Mary Ann Jackson that helped us to make sure we were doing everything safely. So we've carried through with all of that during COVID. I have to also point out that our Meals on Wheels drivers, because we support that program too, 60% of all the Meals on Wheels drivers in Carroll County are our drivers. And this year with the COVID, our drivers delivered over almost 18,000 more meals in Carroll County than we had in 2019. And we do reimburse our drivers for mileage and that they drive. I mean, we're lucky to have the volunteers, but many of them are on fixed incomes and need that. And it's the same way with our drivers for the medical transportation program. So it's we've seen during a couple of months that it was totally closed down, except for the total ones that had to do, as I say, the cancer treatment, dialysis. We saw a slight decline in those months, but a steady rise in the sense that it's opened up. So we're extremely busy with it. I still believe that we're probably the only ones in I know Gibson Center's doing a little bit of transportation, but we continue through all of it. So I think it was a concern for us that we'd be able to keep the programs running efficiently and effectively with the lack of income that we depend on from our fundraising. So I think that's with that in mind, I think that's why the commissioners opted to do the raise, and we're very grateful for that with it. But and I'd answer any other questions I can for you.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Representative Burrows.
Yes, Mary, I'm curious, when you said you haven't been able to do fundraising, have you done any grant writing, or did you?
Oh, we did every bit of grant writing we possibly can, but we go back to the same grant sources all the time. So yeah, we have done grant writing, and we continue to do it. That's one of our big sources. But as I said, 3 major fundraising events did us, were hard on us. But yes, we've done everything we could with the grant writing, and thank you for asking that.
If I could.
Yep.
Of course.
Yeah, I just did you do your annual appeal this year?
We did our annual appeal, and we did okay. But I think a lot of people with the loss of jobs and worrying about their jobs and all, we did a all-out effort with the fundraising. We were not we didn't meet our goal and we did not meet the goal that we had for 2019. But yes, we did. That's one thing we did do. But I think the COVID really had an impact on that also.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Seeing none, will the clerk call the roll? I'm sorry. You need a motion to accept.
Mr. Chairman, I think Representative Cordelli had a question. He raised his hand.
Okay, Representative Cordelli.
Thank you. I was just wondering if RSVP also solicits funds from towns.
Absolutely not. I represent the county, so we absolutely do not. We go to the county and only go to the county for funding. But thank you for asking that question.
Mr. Chairman?
Representative McConkey.
If I could, I'd like to make a motion for RSVP appropriation of $80,000.
Representative Marsh will second that motion.
Thank you. Representative Bucco, you had a question?
No, I was going to make the same motion. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Any further discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Representative Marsh.
Votes yes.
Representative Deshays votes yes. Representative Bucco.
Yes.
Representative Cordelli.
Yes.
Representative Crawford.
Yes.
Representative Nelson.
Yes.
Representative Knirk.
Yes.
Representative Burrows.
Yes.
Representative McDonald.
Yes.
Representative Woodcock.
Yes.
Representative McConkey.
Yes.
Representative Umberger,
Yes.
Representative McAleer,
Yes.
Representative Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Avalani.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, 15-0.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Thank you, Ms.
Thank you
Seavey.
all for your continued support.
Just a reminder, if people aren't speaking, if you can mute, there is some background noise still happening. Carroll County Conservation District, the question was the reason why it was lowered. Commissioner McCarthy, could you speak to that for us?
Okay. On that, I can't give you that much information. It was a decision of the former board. Since this gentleman was new, they wanted to see what he was going to be able to accomplish, and it was just voted to reduce it by the 5,000 until he came up with his programs. And if Matt is on there, I'd be more than happy for him to talk. I know we were impressed with him, and the board just wanted to see what he was going to do.
Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'd just like to reiterate that the Conservation District has been operating through state statute since 1960 or 46. And although I may be new in the position, the prior person was here for 28 years, and we do have a strong district. What I'm working on are writing additional grants, and these grants do not go to fund the district. They go to funding programs that benefit local agriculture, farmers, and landowners, timber harvest, things like that. The biggest grant that we're working on currently is a 3-year grant for stream restoration projects. These improve water quality for our local aquifers. They improve habitat for multiple species, but specifically eastern brook trout. And it also improves flood resiliency. So this appropriation from the county is really an investment that provides essentially seed funding for us to go and write these grants that then directly benefit folks in our community. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. We also have our board chair, Steve Scapicchio, here as well.
Representative Woodcock.
Mr. Chair, I'd move that the budget be approved for $46,150 as proposed.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'd like to second that.
Thank you, Representative Burrows. Do we have any further questions or discussion? Representative Cordelli.
Thank you. I would ask the same question of the gentleman about whether they get town funding as well.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question. No, we do not receive any town funding, and we don't solicit just the county. We are the County Conservation District.
Thank you. Did you have a follow-up, Representative Cordelli? Thank you.
No.
Lino, if I could.
Of course, Representative Umberger.
Thank you. If this motion passes, what additional programs would you leverage to use this money for?
Thank you for your question. The next grant that I'm actively working towards is a Sustainable Agriculture Research and Education grant. This would be partnering with a local farmer and providing them with up to $30,000 to implement some sort of sustainable or innovative practice on their farm. So again, this money helps cover my time to pursue these grants, and then all that money directly goes to landowners or farmers in the county.
Could I have a follow-up?
Of course.
So if we go back to the 40,000, if I understood you correctly, then you would not be able to do this sustainable farming thing.
Correct. I am currently.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions or discussion?
I was wondering, what was the dollar amount on that again? That was 46,150 for the motion?
Correct.
Yes. Yes.
Seeing no further discussion, clerk call the roll.
Representative Marsh.
Votes yes.
Representative DeShays votes yes. Representative Bucco.
Yes.
Representative Cordelli.
No.
Representative Crawford.
Yes.
Representative Nelson.
Yes.
Representative Knirk.
Yes.
Representative Burrows.
Yes.
Representative McDonald.
Yes.
Representative Woodcock.
Yes.
Representative McConkey.
Yes.
Representative Umberger.
Yes.
Representative McAleer.
Yes.
Representative Smith.
No.
Chairman Avalani.
Yes.
The motion passes 13-2.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Representative McDonald.
Yes, I do a motion to approve the request by End 68 Hours of Hunger in the amount of $8,000.
I'll second that.
Could we get a motion to take it off the table first? Because we tabled it at our last meeting.
Okay, I'll amend my motion to remove End 68 Hours of Hunger from the table.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Clerk, call the roll.
Mr. Chairman, is there any?
Point of order, it's not debatable.
Representative Smith, do you have a question?
I did have a question on this. Can I ask it?
Was it on process or was it taking it off the table?
Oh, I'm sorry. We're voting on it for it to be taken off the table. I apologize.
No problem, Commissioner, Representative. Clerk, continue with the roll.
Yeah. Representative Marsh.
Votes yes.
Representative DeShays votes yes. Representative Bucco.
Yes.
Representative Cordelli.
Yes.
Representative Crawford.
Yes.
Representative Nelson.
Yes.
Representative Knirk.
Yes.
Representative Burrows.
Yes.
Representative McDonald.
Yes.
Representative Woodcock.
Yes.
Representative McConkey.
Yes.
Representative Umberger.
Yes.
Representative McAleer.
Yes.
Representative Smith.
Yes.
Chairman Avalani.
Yes.
The motion passes 15-0 to untable the request.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Representative McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would do a motion to approve the request of End 68 Hours of Hunger in the amount of $8,000.
And I'll second
Thank you.
that motion.
Thank you, Representative Umberger. Any further discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would like to say something.
Go, Representative Smith.
I support this program. I support it as a selectman of the town of Ossipee. We've given them $5,000 every year for the last several years. The program fits a need within the community. But my only concern with funding this from a county perspective, yes, I represent Carroll 5 where this primarily serves, which is great. But this is a county-wide budget. And in my opinion, it serves a very narrow part of the county, and it's not fair for the entire county to have to pay into the program. So on that, I will vote no.
Thank you, Representative Smith. Representative Cordelli.
Mr. Chairman, I have a similar concern about awarding this grant. in that it is a regional request rather than a county-wide request. And they do get money from local towns and villages. And I'll have some additional comments process-wise when we finish with this motion.
Thank you, Representative Cordelli. Representative Woodcock.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The question that we had last time to put it on hold, Representative Chair, was to ask why the commissioners zero funded it out. It had been $4,000 last time, and they zero funded it this time. So the question was, why did they zero fund it?
Commissioner McCarthy, would you care to speak to that?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. I'm going to have to leave the meeting. I've been scheduled to do another Zoom meeting with some problems that we're having, unanticipated. So that's where I've been on the phone. And I can take this last question. Lino, if you would repeat it for me.
Sure. It was a question of why the commissioners zero funded the end 68 hours of hunger proposal.
Did that as a board because they're getting funded from several different towns. They're not a county-wide group. They are specific towns. And we felt that they should not get from the county and the individual towns. So that's where we stand. We're not saying they will do wonderful things. All the nonprofits do, but there has to be a limit.
Mr. Chairman, can I say something for a moment?
You have a question for the commissioner, or you have a question in general?
Not a question in general, just a, because I believe we're still in a, what's it called? We're still in debate, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Do you want me to wait until the commissioner waits for questions, or are we done with that portion?
No, the commissioner had to leave, so this is the last question she's going to be taking. So if you have something quick, if not, we can try and answer ourselves.
Yeah, I'd just like to point out that even though it is just a regional group, it still services, about half our entire county. And the amount of funding that they're asking for doesn't even register as 0.1% of our total budget. They've really taken a hit for fundraising, and this food is very important to a number of families who are not only my constituents, but a number of our constituents. Not only that, but there are certain things that we fund in the county that disproportionately help different communities. And part of, being part of the county government is understanding that there's different kinds of things that you fund that might help a certain group of constituents or a certain group of people in the county more than maybe say your constituents, but there's trade-offs. So there are things that we vote for and that we fund, from, Wolfboro, from our standpoint, that might disproportionately go more towards Conway. But the understanding too is that by sharing these funds, we end up getting certain things that might disproportionately help our constituents. So, I think it's more than fair for us to fund this group, and we've historically funded them for at least the last 2 to 3 years, and I don't see why removing all their funding would be considered fair.
Mr. Chairman?
Thank you, Representative McDonald. I'll get to you, Representative Burrows.
If I could just add, there are other groups that the county funds that receive funding from individual towns. And I don't think it's fair to set this group out and not look at all the other recipients of money from the county that also get town money.
Thank you, Representative McDonald. Did you have a follow-up?
I have a question or a comment, Lino, if I could.
Yeah, one second. Representative Burrows was before you.
Thank you,
Sorry.
sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to agree with Representative Duchesne's and say that this is money that's going to feed kids, and I don't think there's any other thing that is as high as a priority as making sure that children have enough to eat. And so that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Representative Umberger.
Yes, I did check with the 68 Hours of Hunger program manager in Conway, and she said that she was very fortunate this year that she had sufficient dollars and food to take care of the people in northern Carroll County. And so that she did not require any additional funding from the county. So I just wanted to pass that on and let folks know that obviously the problem for 68 Hours of Hunger is in the southern part of our county.
Thank you,
Mr. Chair, may I make a comment?
Representative, I'm sorry, is that Representative Marsh?
Yes, it is, but I think Representative Nelson has his hand up first.
And Representative Connect. So hold on one second. Who was first? I can't see all of you.
Representative Avalani, Chairman. It was Nelson, then Marsh, then Pinner, if I'm not mistaken.
Representative Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm wondering if this organization received any extra money from COVID money because more kids are at home and maybe in this situation.
Jen, we can't hear you.
We did not.
Oh, thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, we did not.
Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Marsh.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say that my intention is to vote for this appropriation at this time because I do believe that there's a acute need amongst some of the families with children, particularly in the southern part of the county, that needs to be funded. That being said, I do not want to set a precedent going forward, and going forward past this budget year, I would ask that the commissioners make a policy about organizations that receive funding from towns as well as from the county, because either that's allowed or it's not allowed, and we shouldn't be making individual choices for individual agencies, and I would not support funding this going forward unless such a policy is in place.
Thank you, Representative Marsh. Representative Connect, sorry for the delay.
No problem. I'll get our turn eventually. Actually, I just want to say that what Representative Umberger just said, it really sets my mind at ease, because that was my major concern, was playing favorites of one part versus the other. And I think I had expressed that in the last meeting of wanting to know how come we don't fund the northern half of the county too. But clearly, if they're doing fine, we should put it where the need is. And now I am very comfortable with moving ahead with supporting this. But I do agree with Representative Marsh that we need to develop a real consistent policy about all this stuff. And I think that's a good plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Connect. Any further questions?
I think Treasurer Costello's hand up.
Treasurer Costello.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that. I too agree with Representative Marsh's comments about this. However, I just want to remind everybody, a lot of these things pull at the heartstrings, and we understand that. But just remember, this is taxpayers' dollars that we're handing out, and we want to make sure we get the best use possible for these dollars. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I think Commissioner Flash at his.
Thank you, Commissioner Flash.
Yeah, I wanted to make the comment that I believe the commission has that policy. I don't know that they're getting full information from everyone at times, and sometimes the money coming from the towns hasn't been disclosed to the commission. But what I would propose, and this is something to look for in the coming months, is to create a comprehensive policy going forward as to how these requests will be evaluated by criteria, and probably want to have some kind of committee with representation from the delegation, so we don't go through this every year with everything being second guessed and turned around after the commission has made decisions and applied the policies. So If that would work, I'd like to make that proposal at some point in the next few weeks so that we can get that process started.
Thank you, Commissioner. That is refreshing to hear after all these years. Any further questions?
I will move $8,000 for 68 hours of hunger.
I believe the motion was already on. Yeah, you had seconded it, Karen. And
Okay, I'm
John had
sorry.
made the motion.
I didn't realize that had happened.
Thank you. Seeing no further discussion, clerk call the roll.
Yep. Representative Marsh.
Votes yes.
Representative Deshays happily votes yes. Representative Bucco.
Yes.
Representative Cordelli.
No.
Representative Crawford.
Yes.
Representative Nelson.
Yes.
Representative Knirk.
Yes.
Representative Burrows.
Yes.
Representative McDonald.
Yes.
Representative Woodcock.
Yes.
Representative McConkey.
Yes.
Representative Umberger.
Yes.
Representative McAleer.
Yes.
Representative Smith.
No.
Chairman Avalani.
Yes.
The motion passes 13-2.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk.
Thank you very much for all your support and for your discussion as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Representative Cordelli.
Thank you. I'd like to follow up with the comment I had earlier that I have 2 points. One, again, would like to suggest that the county look at the agencies that are receiving funding via BAS grants. And two, second, Commissioner Platch's suggestion. I think that, we've seen in our past two meetings that we are really going back on recommendations from the commissioners, something that we have not done in the past, I do not recall, and that we need a comprehensive set of criteria that would be available as part of the application process for nonprofits in the county, and that the committee to come up with these criteria be a joint delegation commissioner committee so that we can have one standard policy and not contradicting each other as we have done.
Thank you. Did you have a follow-up? Okay. I will just have a quick comment on that. I think seeing as most of this money could be considered grants, would the grant review committee suffice for working with the commissioners to develop these procedures moving forward to award these technically grants?
I think that's a perfect idea, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Representative Cordelli. Thank you.
Could I, Chairman, can I make another suggestion too?
Sure.
Is there any way that the grant review committee could also work with the commissioners when creating the policy for how we're going to give out to use taxpayer money to give out grants to these organizations?
That was the original intent of my comment.
Okay, my bad. I missed that.
Yep, no problem. I just want to remind everybody to mute themselves if they're not speaking.
Thank you again.
You're welcome. Treasurer Costello, a few minutes for your budget.
Thank you, Commissioner, Mr. Chairman. So I believe everybody has a copy of the treasurer's budget in front of them. Would that be correct, Mr. Chairman?
I have it in front of me.
Okay. I just want to point out that thanks to Representative Cordelli, the treasurer's salary was increased by $1,005 for this year, and that's muchly appreciated given the fact that the additional work and time and efforts involved with this position. Without that additional $1,005, the actual increase for the treasurer's office is just about 3%. And the bulk of that basically is the mileage, which is a function of attending all the additional meetings and so forth that we have going on. If anybody has any specific questions on the budget, I'd be happy to try and answer them.
If I could, Mr. Chairman?
Representative Umberger.
Yes. Can you tell me what dollar figure you used for mileage?
Yes. The dollar figure for mileage for this coming year is at $2,200. The previous year was $2,000.
Joe, that wasn't my question. My question was, what figure did you use to compute the mileage?
Oh, I'm sorry. Basically, the distance between my home and the county office and the number of trips that we make on an annual basis is how we computed that.
No, Joe, you still are missing my point.
Sorry.
How many? I think right now it's 50.3 cents per mile. Is that the number that you used as well as the rest of the county used to compute how many dollars were there for mileage? Or did you use the old figure of, was it 54 or 57? And so that we need to be consistent with the new mileage that came out within the last month.
If I may respond to that, the mileage figure that was used, I believe, was the old figure. The new mileage rate just came out. So if that being the case, then the possibility exists that we will not reach the $2,200 level. However, the increased trips are what's affecting this, not so much as the cents per mile, even though this number has been reduced in the last month. So I'm still proposing the $2,200 because of the increased number of trips. Instead of going to the county once a week, sometimes we go 2 and 3 times a week, depending on what meetings are going on. So I don't think we're out of line with that.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have no problem with that. My concern is that if we figured all of the mileage for the county on the old rate and we're now at the new rate, like, you know, I don't know what change that would make across the board. And that maybe we need to ask Mr. Cullen if he would take a look at that and just give us some sort of idea at our next scheduled meeting. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have one quick comment on that.
Representative Smith.
I believe it was 57.5 cents, 57.5 cents for 2020, and I believe they dropped it to 56 cents for 2021. That is the federal number, just for a point of information.
Thank you. CFO Cullen, have you received that question from Representative Umberger?
Yeah, yes, I'll get that answer for you. I mean, it's only going to be 1.5% of a pretty small number, but I'll get the answer for you for your next meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Cullen. Any further
I,
discussion?
we don't have
Go
a
ahead,
motion.
Representative Umberger.
Yeah, I'd like to move $10,582 for the treasurers.
Representative Marshall, second.
Thank you. And thank you, Representative Marsh. Seeing no further discussion. Well, I'm sorry, Representative Kennard.
Yes, maybe I should have asked this before, but I was waiting till the discussion. I was confused by one thing. When we got this, which was the proposed expenditures, and I looked at this page, and at the bottom of the column for the treasurer, it listed in the 2020 budget $648,499. That was, I think, quite clearly an error, because as we're talking about here, it's a much smaller number than that. Does anybody have an explanation for why the sheet of Carroll County Proposed Expenditures 2021 sent out before the January 11 meeting had these numbers at the bottom? Again,
That's a very good question.
This was the one that came out in 11. And likewise, the department proposed was also bizarre. And the spending as of, the number for the September 30 was 917,000. And I had to wonder whether they were adding together the commissioner and the treasurer in this spot, but even that wouldn't have added up properly. So that was confusing, but that was the only spot I found that error. And I think something got messed up. Just for the record, it should be corrected. The final column proposed was correct.
Yes. Thank you, Representative Kennard.
Yeah, if I could, the latest thing that we got in our package shows it correctly, I believe. It doesn't show the budget, but it shows what last year's budget was versus this year's budget.
Thank you. Executive Coordinator Siemens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do have the correct numbers that should be in that column, but that's what happened. It was adding the columns above into the treasurer line. It was just a misstep in the formula.
Thank you for clearing that up. Representative Treasurer Costello.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. That was wishful thinking on the treasurer's part with a new salary. You have to maintain that sense of humor. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
I just want to double check the dollar amounts. That was 10,582 was in the motion.
That is correct.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I had. I just wanted to double check.
All right. Clerk can call the roll.
Representative Marsh.
Votes yes.
Representative Deshaies votes yes. Representative Bucco.
Yes.
Representative Cordelli. Representative Cordelli. Oh,
Yes.
My bad. Representative Crawford.
Yes.
Representative Nelson.
Yes.
Representative Knerk.
Yes.
Representative Burrows.
Yes.
Representative McDonald.
Yes.
Representative Woodcock.
Yes.
Representative McConkey.
Yes.
Representative Umberger.
Yes.
Representative McAleer.
Yes.
Representative Smith.
Yes.
Chairman Avalani.
Yes.
The motion passes 15-0 unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Thank
Mr.
you,
Chairman,
Treasurer Costello and Representative Smith.
I have to sign off to go do my selectman duties now. I'm sorry for having to leave early.
No problem, Representative Smith, and thank you for sticking with us for so long.
Thank you. Everyone have a good day.
Treasurer Costello.
Mr. Chairman, I have sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just wanted to bring the delegation up to date. First off, the announcement is that my tumor seems to be shrinking, and the The chemo seems to be working, so we're very positive with all that, and certainly appreciate everybody's best wishes. More importantly, though, about the county, I did receive information that the entire year of 2019 the checkbook has been balanced, and I do have the documentation to support that. Moving forward, we're going to see about getting 2020 up to date also. My plan for the commissioners, so the delegation knows this, I want to be doing a monthly report, which includes the checkbook balance and credits and debits and all that sort of business on a monthly basis. At the same time, the department budgets, we want to show their original, the amounts they've used to date, the balance available, and a percentage year to date on it. So these are things that I've been trying to put in place, and with the assistance of the financial department, the fiscal department, and the folks there, we're going to start doing a regular monthly treasurer's report. Thank you.
Sounds great. Thank you very much. Bob Murray, you're up.
Good afternoon. 4170 administration building budget. I'm presenting you with a reduced budget this year, and it's largely because of salary line adjustments. A small portion of my salary was previously paid for out of the 4170-009 line, and that has been consolidated over to the nursing home. So the nursing home is paying 100% of my salary at this time. Other than that, it's a pretty unremarkable budget.
Thank you, Mr. Murray.
Mr. Chairman, could I ask a question?
Of course, Representative Berger.
Mr. Murray, are you devoting 100% of your time to the nursing home?
No, absolutely not.
I thought that we had split that out so that we could have a clear idea as to the cost associated with the admin building. And I really am not sure that I agree with the commissioners putting all of that cost into the nursing home, because it, although it's not a lot of money, it tends to skew what the cost of the nursing home is.
What are you doing with that stuff?
Looking at this.
Representative McAleer?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Thank you. Mr. Murray, you can continue.
Yeah, I don't really know how to respond to that, other than that that's what the powers that be decided that it would be best to do, just to simplify things. My time is spread across the county, and if you want to look at it at that angle, you've got the jail, you've got the nursing home, you've got the annex and the administration building. That if you really wanted to start carving up my salary, you could. I think I don't want to speak for anybody else, but I just think that it made sense to put my salary in one place. And since the nursing home has to do cost reporting for salaries, they figured that it would be the best place to put it. You could put it all under 4170 salary line if you wanted to. It's really, at the end of the day, as long as I get a paycheck, I'm happy. How you guys want to carve it up is completely up to the commissioners, I guess.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, before we go on, could I simply ask that Mr. Cullen provide us with some kind of information about people who spend time doing other things? I won't vote against this, but I really think that we need to have some kind of a policy that says, our workers, our managers, I guess mostly, are going to be split. They're not going to be split, and here's the reason why. That's all.
Just a follow-up, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative Woodcock.
Thank you. Ms. Lundberg makes a good question. I would be curious to hear from, and I agree with Mr. Murray, that as long as he gets a paycheck, that's what counts. But I'd be curious to see how this impacts Mr. Chandler's budget, and what his position on that is.
I believe he was involved in the decision.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. Representative Cordelli.
Thank you. If I remember correctly, between Chrono's timekeeping and the payroll system, it made for easier division of one's salary between different accounts, between different departments.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. Representative Cordelli, I didn't exactly understand what you said. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I think between Chrono's timekeeping and the payroll system, it has meant an easier means of tracking employee time between different functions, between different departments than it had been in the past, as I recall.
I will simply be interested in hearing what Mr. Cullen has to say about this. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to accept?
Fergus Cullen has his hand up, and I think he should be able to answer that for us.
Mr. Cullen, if you would.
Sure, just to get to that question. So out of more than 300 employees in the county, we had 4 whose salaries were split between different departments. Mr. Murray's was one of them. Other 3 were in the finance department that were also split between the nursing home. And my sense, our sense was that this was perhaps misleading in some ways, that it seemed to underrepresent, for example, what the costs are salary-wise, personnel-wise of some positions, and that by moving them all into one department, it might give a more accurate picture of what those costs were. If you want to disaggregate those, that's of course the will of the delegation and the commissioners, but that was the thinking in terms of moving everyone 100% into one department or another.
Thank you, Mr. Cullen. Any further questions? Seeing none, do we have a motion to accept?
Yes, Mr. Chair, this is Representative Marsh. I will move that we accept the administration building budget of $52,505.
Second.
Thank you. Could
I think that was
identify who the second
Woodcock.
was? Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Representative Marsh?
Votes yes.
Representative Deshays votes yes. Representative Bucco?
Yes.
Representative Cordelli?
Sorry, trouble with my mic. Yes.
Perfectly fine. Representative Crawford?
Yes.
Representative Nelson?
Yes.
Representative Knirk?
Yes.
Representative Burrows?
Yes.
Representative McDonald?
Yes.
Representative Woodcock?
Yep.
Representative McConkey?
Yes.
Representative Umberger?
Yes.
Representative McAleer?
Yes.
Representative Smith is absent. Chairman Avalani?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously, 14-0.
Moving on to 4198, Mr. Murray.
Yeah, 4198. Excuse me. there's been slight increases in contracted fees and services. There's always a couple of percent rise in some of these services, but for the most part, it is they are level funded. Satellite TV services did go up this year by about 10%. I'm pleased. Did you all get the letter that I wrote about the Siemens project?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, we did.
Okay, so the electricity and propane have been adjusted down accordingly, 10% for electricity and 25% for propane. Because we're not using pellets because we're doing so well on propane, I dropped that down from $25,000 to $10,000, which is just about what it takes to fill one silo full of pellets. Vehicle expenses are level funded. Care of grounds are level funded. And with the exception of a project that I put in here, I level funded the 081 maintenance line. I've got a $38,500 estimate on a repair project on one of the rooftop units of the administration building. I know some of you are going to ask me, well, we just spent a lot of money with Siemens. Why are we spending $38,000 on a rooftop unit? Well, at the 2 years ago, or two some odd years ago, when the system was first engineered, I had no problems with these units. They were running fine. The two rooftop units are 20 years old. I had a couple of coils, evaporator coils, that are in the rooftop unit fail, and what they call a frequency drive that runs one of the fans fail. And in order to repair those, replace those coils, it's going to take a crane and 2 or 3 guys the better part of 2 days to repair these. So they gave me an estimate of $38,500. These rooftop units used to be the primary air conditioning units for the administration building. Now they are secondary. We did install the VRF, the variable refrigerant flow refrigeration system, which drastically offsets the air conditioning demand on the roof, but they still act as dehumidifiers, and they still act to moderate the fresh air that comes into the building. So unfortunately, it's a repair expense that I'm going to have to make. So we've adjusted the $99,040 line up to $137,540 to accommodate that repair.
Thank you. Representative Cordelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Several problems I have here. First, this maintenance line, the estimate is that last year, $69,282 were spent for this maintenance line. Now we have a budget almost $70,000 higher than that. Secondly, contracted services. To my way of thinking, just about every contract that has come up within the past year has been a no-bid contract. We've given it to the same vendor that we've had for years and years because, well, they do a good job and there's no price increase. To me, that doesn't cut it for the taxpayers. We have to look for the best deal possible, and we have to cut out the no-bid contracts.
Thank you, Representative Cordelli. Do we have a motion to accept?
I'll move $955,131 for the county facilities total.
And Representative Marshall second that motion.
Did you say 151 or 131, Karen?
131 is what it says here. 955-131.
That's what I thought. I just was double checking.
Thank you. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Yep. Oh, the order changed on this one. Representative Marsh.
Votes yes.
Representative McConkey. Is Representative McConkey there?
Yes.
Active.
Representative Bucco.
Yes.
Representative Umberger.
Yes.
Representative Cordelli.
No, for the reasons I just stated, plus the overall huge increase in spending in this budget.
Representative Crawford.
Yes.
Representative Nelson.
Yes.
Representative Knirk.
Yes.
Representative Burrows.
Yes.
Representative McDonald.
Yes.
Representative Woodcock.
Yes.
Representative DeShays votes yes. Representative McAleer.
Yes.
Representative Smith. Oh, he's not here. My bad. Absent. Chairman Avalani.
Yes.
Motion passes 13-1.
Thank you.
All right. Sheriff Fishardi, are you on with us? I'd also like to thank everybody for, you seem to be doing very well on time, so I appreciate everybody's indulgence on that. Sheriff Fishardi?
Lino?
Representative Knirk.
Yes, I have his phone number. I'll give him a call and see. Let's move on to somebody.
Well, I see him on my screen. I just want to make sure that we're not bypassing him if he is here.
Yes, I'm sorry. He's there. Huh.
Lino, you might tell him to do, what is it, *6 to unmute?
I'm not sure he's
Executive Coordinator Siemens.
Ah, there he is. Okay.
Executive Coordinator Siemens, would you reach out to the sheriff and see if he's going to join us?
I certainly am. And also, Mr. Chairman, can I just ask a procedural question? On the regional appropriations, the delegation voted to approve those individually. Would you like to vote on that bottom line?
Oh, of course. My apologies to everyone. CFO Collins, you have the bottom line to that?
I have it, Mr. Chairman, and I'll be glad to make a motion.
Proceed, Representative Marsh, please.
Yes, I move that we approve the bottom line for 9180 regional appropriations in the amount of $444,150.
Could you say that amount a tad slower?
Yeah. 444,150.
Who is not muted? Thank you. right, do we have a second to that motion? Please?
I'll second.
Thank you, Representative Umberger. Clerk, call the roll.
1 sec, I'm just writing down the full motion.
And Mr. Chairman, while he's doing that, may I let you know that the sheriff is coming up to the meeting room. He'll be here momentarily.
Thank you.
All right, I'll call the roll now. Representative Marsh.
Votes yes.
Mr. Chairman,
You have to identify yourself. I can't see you. I'm sorry, Representative Bucco.
I think there's an error in that column. It does not include the 80,000 for RSVP.
Actually, it does, but I'll be glad to double check the figure.
Thank you.
Also, who seconded Representative Marsh's motion?
I did.
That Umberger? That's
Yes.
what I thought.
What dollar figure did he give us?
Representative Marsh?
Yeah.
$444,150.
Okay, we need to add some to that. $5,000.
I double checked it. It does come out to 444,150 compared to the agency requested budget. You will see that the RSVP was increased by $5,000 and starting point was decreased by $5,000, and that's how it comes out to the same total.
Okay, thank you.
Just for clarification, that includes the end 68 hours of hunger too?
Yes, because that was included in the agency requested call.
Okay.
All right.
All right. So that's cleared away. So it's 444,150.
That was the motion that I made, yes.
Okay. And Mr. Chairman, are we entering into voting again?
We are. I have not verified these numbers, so I'm just going on what you guys have come up with. So I would like to have them just make sure that we have them correct by CFO Collins to make sure that they're appropriated correctly by line and that the total is correct.
Yes, I agree with Representative Marsh.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. Proceed with the roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Representative Marsh.
Votes yes again.
Representative McConkey.
Yes.
Representative Bucco.
Yes.
Representative Umberger.
Yes.
Representative Cordelli.
No.
Representative Crawford.
Yes.
Representative Nelson.
Yes.
Representative Knirk.
Yes.
Representative Burrows.
Yes.
Representative McDonald.
Yes.
Representative Woodcock.
Yes.
Representative DeShays votes yes. Representative McAleer.
Yes.
Representative Smith. Oh, he's absent. Chairman Avalani.
Yes.
The motion passes 13-1.
Thank you. Is the sheriff queued up?
Yes, I'm here.
Representative Fishardi? I'm sorry. Sheriff Fishardi?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right.
I assume you all got the printouts of the description of the budget. So as you know, there is the biggest part of the budget increase was asking for a full-time deputy. In doing that, we were cutting a position of a secretary to about 27 and a half hours a week from 40. So the benefits from that position would go to the deputy position. The position is also covered by an existing grant that we have as far as salary item. So a good portion of the salary is covered by that and offset by the part-time secretary position. So I won't say it's a wash, but it's almost a wash. I do have a few line adjustments that I would like to make. And that would be the 029 other fees and services. I believe yours readout says $2,000. We decreased that to $1,500.
Is that under the
073?
Is that under the dispatch
No,
center?
the sheriff's side. Other fees and services.
Could you repeat that for us, please, Mr. Sheriff? What did you introduce line, not 29 to?
029 from 2,000 to 1,500, 1,500.
Thank you for that.
And also the vehicle expense line, even though gas looks like it's going to keep climbing, from 62,000 to 60,000. Just so you know, the line above it, 72, is a vehicle lease. That line, 8,100, that'll be the last year you're paying a lease line, so that'll be good for next year. And those were the two adjustments I'd like to make. If you have any questions on the sheriff?
That means that you are requesting a bottom line figure of 1695550. Is that correct?
I did not do the total, I'm sorry, but I will trust that's right.
Okay, thank you. I'll ask someone to check my figures as the chairman has stepped out for a minute and I'm not quite able to do that. Is there further discussion or questions for the sheriff at this time? Representative Cordelli.
Thank you. Thank you, Sheriff. I just wanted to ask about some of the lines, starting with education and conferences budgeted at $3,500. I do not believe that there was any expended in 2020 and less than $900 in 2019.
You are correct, and I'm sure you've heard it from every other department head that due to COVID, education, getting to conferences or in-person education was almost impossible this year. I did have a vision that we would use that this year. Part of that is also tied to the contract. If people take life learning education, that reimbursement is made for those college credits. So again, I warn or hope that we can leave it at what it is right now, and hopefully 2021 we'll see something different as far as getting out and getting the education used.
Representative Deschutes.
Yeah, thank you for taking my question, Sheriff Ricciardi. Could you explain to the delegation what kind of education, what kind of conferences that people who work in your department, what they go to, and how that's beneficial to the taxpayers that they have that kind of training or education?
Well, I mean, it could be from any type of law enforcement college class as far as continuing ed. It can also be from conferences to educate on drug enforcement, which is always a benefit to the community as far as not only getting the education that's being taught, but the connections that are made throughout these conferences are a good part of it. There's also classes or conferences that can go for FBI leader schools, which vary in a number of types of schools, for supervisors positions, things like that. So obviously, like any other training, it makes for a better officer. With law enforcement, as you know, throughout 2020, it's a very difficult year. So not only will the academy be requiring us to have more hours, the public is also putting more restrictions as far as the types of classes we will have to take by the end of 2021. I believe it's by 2023, they want us from what is currently 8 hours a year needed to 24 hours a year. And that's to keep your certification. So it's not going to go backwards, it's going to go forward.
Could I have a follow-up, Mr. Chairman?
Right ahead.
And you mentioned that some of these certifications or some of these trainings are contractually required. Are they built into the collective bargaining agreement or the contracts that we have with people who work in your department?
Yes, anyone that's a union member is allowed to take a college course that could be related to their work, and they would get reimbursement. I believe it's up to $1,000 per person. So obviously, there's 1 or 2 of those a year would take most of that budget.
Awesome, thank you.
Representative Clark.
Well, thank you. I would like to commend the sheriff for once again doing a fine job of keeping his costs down and coming with a very good budget. I calculate this to be an increase of 1% over last year, which is less than half of the cost of living. So I think that's quite commendable. And Representative Marsh, I did the math as well. I wasn't quite sure I heard what you said. I come up with 1,695,550. Is that what you said? Oh, okay. I got the thumbs up from CFO Collins. So he matters more than anybody else.
Representative Crawford, did you have your hand up?
I did, thank you. Good afternoon, Sheriff. So I'm looking at your personnel schedule, and am I correct to say that you have 12 deputies? Is that not counting you? Am I counting that correctly?
There's 12 currently with myself.
With yourself?
This one does show that new position of 13.
A follow-up, Mr. Chairman?
Of course.
Thank you. So do you have 2 corporals? Is that what I'm seeing here? And 1 lieutenant?
It's 2 corporals, 1 sergeant, and 1 lieutenant.
1 sergeant, 1 lieutenant. And the new position is for a deputy, a road deputy, or however you want to classify it, right?
Correct, most likely.
Taking maybe, without getting into any discussion, taking the place of someone else?
As far as no. No, this would be a new position. It would actually bring us back to the count that we had in 2010. So between 2010 and 2013, we lost a position somewhere.
Follow up quickly. So, Sheriff, when I came on in 2012, we added a position. I'm not in, as maybe not a second in command, but someone was next to you that you had, and then that position, that person left and then came back. So, what happened to that position when they left? Did you fill that with someone else?
No, that was the chief deputy position you're talking about. That was that was about a 3/4 time position. And that position has not been filled. So that half position has not been filled. The person doing that job is the lieutenant currently, as far as taking the role of that work along with a lot of the other lieutenant work that he was doing.
One more, and I'm out.
Of course, go right ahead.
So, what happened to that salary? Did that salary just get put into everything else?
Yes, I mean, that was about 2 years ago he left, or around there. So it's kind of, some of that's been absorbed in contracts as far as raises. So through attrition, it's allowed the sheriff's budget not to rise that much. And I think you've seen that. So.
Thank you.
Welcome. Representative Cordelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Sheriff. Couple of questions. First, there in your personnel schedule, there appear to be 2 corporal positions, and based on 91A requests that I filed a year or so ago, it appeared that there was just 1 corporal. Can you explain if there were just 1 corporal, and if so, when was the second added?
I don't have that exact answer in front of me. I know it's, I would say at least almost 2 years, if not that much, that second corporal's been. Not sure exactly when you asked for that request.
Follow up, if I could?
Sure. Okay.
Thank you. In the deputy salary line, in the detail, there looks to be holiday and sick time buyouts. Are those contractual?
Yes, those are annual. The holidays are, they get paid at the end of the year for 11 holidays, whether they work them or not. And the sick time buyout is paid back at a rate of 3/4 of the day for the unused sick time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions for the sheriff on this particular budget? Seeing none, Sheriff, do you want to move into dispatch real quick for an overview?
You can, if that's how you want to do it.
Please.
And again, I mean, this was pretty simple. The rise would be the contract raise of 2.5% for the full-time employees in dispatch. The sick time buyout, that is the actual max of possibility that it could be if no one took a sick day, which obviously over the years that has not happened. And I suspect that that will continue in that path. So because you don't fund the sheriff's side of the sick time buyout in a full possibility. I will let you know that. Is there any other questions?
I have one, Sheriff. It looks like just the retirement adjustment seems to be the basic increase in that budget.
What's that? I'm sorry.
The retirement expense, I think it's going up from the New Hampshire Retirement Board. Well, sorry, 4142, line 13, it's going from 69,000 to 86,000.
That could be obviously it could be that I had missed some accountability during the year as far as overtime, and also the increase in the retirement. Is there? There it is.
And also, I'm sorry, go ahead, Sheriff.
The financial officer, Colin, he helped me with that one. So I'm not sure if you might have that answer.
Okay. We can circle back. Sheriff, my intention was to have your budget today. However, the auditors had an opening today to present the audit. So I will have you at our next meeting to finish these up, if that is amenable to you.
Yeah, that's fine with me. And will they go over the grants and revenue at that point?
Yes, sir.
Not a question. Okay.
Yeah, we'll go over those because those are pretty straightforward. Is everybody okay with that? Representative Umberger?
Yes, my question was, perhaps Mr. Cullen could provide us with the retirement increases across how much the New Hampshire retirement went up for for employees in 1 and 2.
Thank you, CFO Cullen. Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
County Attorney Andruzzi, you are next.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am, go right ahead.
Thank you. So I actually have 5 budgets, and I don't know where you would like to start. Perhaps it might be best to start with the medical examiner budget, which is $141.50. Does that make sense to everybody?
Sure, that's usually a pretty easy one.
It is. This is the first year that I'm actually asking for an increase, and that is because our 2020 budget was put in place prior to us understanding that we were going to be heading into a pandemic. We ended up really having to move some money around in order to cover the expenses in the medical examiner budget. I do have the numbers from 2019. We had 94 unattended deaths that we had to have investigated and that my office responded to. And in 2020, that number was 127. So there was a huge increase in that year. And most of that came in the second half of the year. So, which is why our projection for 2020 just did not hit the mark. we've never had this issue before, but I want to ensure that we don't have this issue next year. So it looks like we were allocated 17,000 for 2020, and we actually spent 21,037 by the end of the year. So for next year, I am requesting 24,600.
Thank you. Representative Clark.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the sheets, but I'm not finding that particular one. What line number is that one?
Sure.
Actually, page 7.
Huh?
Page 7.
Page 7, line 4150. It's under medical referee.
And then just to finish up, the way that I projected next year's is that we, because the beginning of 2020 was not as busy as the end of 2020. So what we did is we took the end of 2020, those 6 months, and we doubled it to project what 2021 would be, because we anticipate that it's going to continue on this trajectory for a bit.
Could I ask a question, Mr. Chairman?
Representative DeShays.
Hi, thank you. Thank you so much, County Attorney Andruzzi. I was wondering, what do you attribute the increase of the services provided by this line item to? Is it anything COVID related, do you think? And do you think that the need for it will decrease as people are vaccinated in the state? You know, the state is currently kind of predicted we'll have nearly 70% of people in the state vaccinated by August of this year, August or October. So do you think we'll see back to a decrease of how you had been originally funded the $17,000 in 2020? Do you think we'll ever go back to that, or do you think this is steadily going to increase and it's unrelated to COVID?
Thank you. That's a great question. I think some of it is unrelated to COVID, but a lot of it is attributed to COVID. And it's not just the COVID deaths. It's the other deaths where people are not going in to seek help because they're concerned about going into hospitals. And we also have an increase in substance abuse deaths. Obviously, that's been going up. So, you know, tangentially related to the COVID epidemic and being locked down. And so hopefully it goes down, but what I don't want to be in a position of not having the funding again, because it was quite a scramble this year to try to pull money from all over my budgets into these line items.
Of course, I was just wondering, not entirely for next year, but for future subsequent years, knowing, you know, based on whether this is going to be an increase for 1 year and maybe we might see a decrease in the future, whether or not this is going to be, you know, a line item that keeps increasing every year.
Sure, and some of that, Representative, is also tied to the increase in population. So as our population here grows, as you're aware, we have our median age here is a little bit higher than in other areas, and so we do have you know, a lot of medical examiner expenses.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion to accept?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Marsh here. I'll be glad to move section 4150 in the amount $24,600.
Second.
Thank you. Representative Woodcock was the second. Thank you. Any further discussion? Clerk, call the roll, please.
Representative Marsh?
Votes yes.
Representative McConkey?
Yes.
Representative Bucco?
Yes.
Representative Umberger?
Yes.
Representative Cordelli?
Yes.
Representative Crawford?
Yes.
Representative Nelson?
Yes.
Representative Knark?
Yes.
Representative Burrows?
Yes.
Representative McDonald?
Yes.
Representative Woodcock?
Yes.
Representative DeShays votes yes. Representative McAleer?
Yes.
And Chairman Avalani?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously, 14-0.
Thank you. Victim witness?
I'm happy to address that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I also just a brief overview pulled a history on our budgets, and I was a little surprised because the 2015 budget for victim witness was actually 115,000 total, and we're below that now, so we are still not back at that total. And that was when they had one full-time employee in that department. We now have 2 full-time employees. We're offering considerably more services, and we're able to do that for a lot less money. And I think a lot of that is just attributed to the fact that we have increased our reliance on technology, and obviously having 2 people, we're able to cover twice as much ground. So this budget just went up a light amount, and that is just in retirement and raises. Really, that's the only thing that has increased on that. I'm happy to take any questions.
Mr. Chairman?
Representative Umberger.
Yes. Is this funded by a federal grant, or is this funded by the taxpayers here?
Thank you, Representative Umberger, and it's nice to see you back. Thank you for the excellent question. We do have a federal grant that is a separate budget. That is 32,500, I believe, total is that grant. A lot, that's why some of these line items are very low, because they are funded through the grant. So for instance, education and conferences, that is funded through the grant. Office equipment is generally funded through the grant, and most of the office supplies that are necessary is also funded through the grant. And part of the director's salary is funded through the grant as well. The rest of it, so this 93,000 is funded through the taxpayers. And when I go back over the salary history, when I say the 115 from 5 years ago, that was entirely taxpayer funded. That was funded through the county, and then there was the additional amount of the grant on top of that.
Representative Woodcock.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I may have missed this, Mr. Andruzzi. Your budget's down from where the commission, the commission proposal is less than yours. Did I miss your explanation for that? I can't hear her. I think she's muted.
Sorry, I did mute. I'm seeing the same number when I talk about it being down, Representative. And thank you for the question. I just went over a salary history for that department, and I'm happy just real quick. 5 years ago in 2015, this same department with 1 employee as opposed to 2 had a budget of 115,000. In 2016, that was cut to 58,000. In 2017, that was 58,000. In 2018, it looks like it went down to 29,000. And then in 2019, it went up to 78,000. And now in 2020, it was 91,000. We have expanded that department by doubling its size. Our caseload in our office, which I can talk about extensively.
Mr. Attorney, my only question is simple. It looks like you submitted for 93,347, but the commission cut it back to 91,860. That was my question.
So that's not what I have on my sheet, and I apologize that that's not what I have on my sheet. But what I have is that they proposed the exact same amount. So the only increases here are in the raises, and in obviously our retirement expense went up, I believe, by 3%. So that's going to add to it. And then Social Security, Medicare, things went up a titch, not too much.
Mr. Chairman, could the CFO tell us the exact figure we're looking at?
Thank you. I also share your concern, Representative Woodcock. I'm looking at 2 different numbers. Mr. Collins?
Yes, I think there was just a minor correction to how salary costs were going to hit the retirement, Medicare, and Social Security lines. And that was the only adjustment from what was originally proposed. So it was just a housekeeping matter.
The 91,
Thank you.
9186 is correct, CFO?
Hang on one sec, please, if I can just confirm that for you.
Thank you.
Uh, 91,860, that's the number you're looking at, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Cullen. County Attorney Andruzzi.
Thank you. And Mr. Cullen, if I could just get a verification that that does not change the proposed salary, that it was simply in the benefits lines that those changes were made, because as I'm seeing it, that's only a couple $100 more than last year. So that would not allow for raises. And I do not want to be in a position of not being able to give some of the folks in my department their raises.
I believe that's the case. I'd really want to triple check to make sure that we're 100% on the same page. I don't think there's a problem, but I'd want to triple check. So I'll work on that as you all continue.
Thank you.
Thank you. We can circle back to that. County Attorney Andruzzi, we had to schedule in the auditors for 3:15. So I plan on having you back at a further meeting to go over some of these other ones. And could you just quickly touch on your main budget as well? So if there's any questions, we can get them over to you.
Sure. Thank you. I am happy to. I am, as I went through my budget, I recognize that my budget is up quite a bit from last year. And there were a couple of reasons for that I would like to talk about briefly. One of the things that I also did is I separated out the salaries for administrative and then the salaries for the assistant county attorneys. And I actually feel like that was a mistake on my part. And the reason I think that's a mistake on my part is that with such a small workforce, it really doesn't give me much flexibility. And so I would like to collapse those back together. I did that because I know the delegation likes things split up so that it's easier to see and you can't hide anything in your budget. And for me, it's not a matter of hiding it. It's a matter of if I have two positions open, one is an administration and one is an attorney, and I'm figuring I'm going to hire an entry level an attorney and a senior level paralegal, but the applications I get are reversed. I would like to have that flexibility to make that work with the salaries. So I would actually really like it if the delegation could collapse 4110-007 and 4110-008 back into just one line item like it has been previously. With regard to the increases in my salary, many of those are just contractual. So we've got the $7,000 for sick buyout. That's something that we have to do in the county. We have, let's see, we've got a $7,000 increase to the county attorney salary. We have a $2,000 increase to Social Security. We've got a $13,500 increase to retirement expenses. We have, let's see, line item 029 is other fees and services. That ordinarily has been $3,000. This year I had put in for the information management and sort of data management project. That is the additional $21,000. I will say that I have asked for this every year I've been here and the commissioners have never passed it. This year they did give this to me, and of all years to have this, I actually feel like this is something that if I had to wait another year on it, I could wait another year on it. It's not on fire. It needs to be done, but it's not on fire. And I hesitate to say that because I'm scared that I won't ever get approval for it again. But I do think that given the financial constraints that everybody is in this year, that is an area, that 21,000 is something that I feel like we could push off to next year if we have to. The civil commitment line is going up from 10,000 to 20,000. I did not use that 10,000. If the delegation remembers, those of you who were here last year, we don't ordinarily use the civil commitment line, but there are two provisions in the law, one of which is the Sexually Violent Predator Civil Commitment Act, which requires us to get very quick turnarounds on mental health evaluations on potentially sexually violent predators who are going to be released from prison in an attempt to have them held civilly. That funding we anticipate could be anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000 altogether. What we were trying to do is fund it gradually, add to it every year, so that that funding is available. It is only available, it's a contingency fund. It is only available in the event that we get one of those cases. We've only had one in the 4 years that I have been in office, and it ended up that we didn't actually need to go to trial, so we did not need to access that money. I think Mr. Cullen Mr. Cullen and I are going to work on trying to figure out how to make that a rollover account so that we don't have to let the 10,000 from last year go and now ask for 20,000. Instead, we would have the 10,000 from last year and ask for just 10,000. And the commission had asked where I would cut that off, and I think that I would cut that off at 50,000. So after 5 years of adding in money, that money would just stay there as a contingency fund. Then let's see, there's not much difference in office supplies. We did use more office supplies this year. I'm trying to see where else. The new equipment line, I have 7,500 in there. That is because the computers that we purchased for the attorneys, that was 4 years ago, and we have been consistently having problems as they are aging, and our data management is not able to hold as much anymore, so we would like to upgrade those computers. So that money is for $1,500 for 5 attorneys. I think that's correct. That's my math. I had submitted that to the commissioners. We would like to upgrade to the Surface Pro 7. It's, one of the things we've done to try to do more with less is use a lot more technology. We are doing electronic discovery. That's something that I just started this year. So hopefully that will reduce our postage use. It certainly has made things easier for my staff. It's less copying, less burning to disks, less mailing. So we were able to find the funds in our budget to add that to our information management so that it's just a click of a button and it gets sent to the defense, and it shows it's through a secured link. It shows when they receive it, it shows when they open it, so that we don't have any issues of them going to court and saying, we didn't receive this. We can prove that they did. And that's all handled electronically now. It's kind of like Dropbox, but it's through the information management system that we were already paying for. That's been really helpful to us. So that is really the biggest expense additions that I have there.
Thank you. And could you touch quickly on your domestic violence prosecutor?
Yes, thank you. Hopefully you all received, I know Starting Point was trying to get a letter out to you all about the impact of the domestic violence prosecutor, which you all were very kind to fund last year. I think that it has been a phenomenal success. The police departments are all extremely grateful. We didn't know that a pandemic was coming when we asked for the domestic violence prosecutor, but had I known, I would have been even, more sort of aggressive in asking for it, because as we know, financial stress and being locked into a house, that does not reduce domestic violence. It actually increases it. Our facts and figures statewide show that domestic violence homicides are up, domestic violence numbers are up. The benefit of having the domestic violence misdemeanor prosecutor in our office is that we receive consistent results across the county, rather than having some departments handle it really well and other departments not so well. Everybody is handled through one office. It's not handled by a police prosecutor, who do their very best, and many of them do a great job, but it is handled by an attorney with specialized training and experience in domestic violence cases. They have immediate access to victim services, which they did not have previously. Conway is the only police department that has a victim services assistant on staff. None of the other police departments do. The longer you go between an incident of domestic violence and accessing services for a victim, the less likely that victim is to stay on board with the prosecution. So our goal is to try to quickly get services in place, and we make those referrals to Starting Point within 24 hours of the arrest. We have the victim connected with services, with victim reparations if there needs to be locks changed or alarms installed or any psychological services that need to take place. So we anticipated about 100 cases a year, and we are on target for that. Although I will say that last year the district court did record 134 misdemeanor domestic violence cases, which is up from prior years. But I anticipate we can still handle that number going forward. We were lucky enough to hire somebody who's really good, and he's been just phenomenal. Everybody raves about him. He's, he talks to Starting Point on an almost daily basis. He's making sure that he's coordinating services. Our victim services associates picked up that extra caseload without missing a beat. They work so tirelessly, and they are just dedicated public servants. So I hope you all realize what a great office we have here in Carroll County. I think we're all really fortunate because it is, the other offices around the state really are struggling to keep prosecutors and victim services people in place. And we have been fortunate enough to be able to retain our staff. I know that the 2 years before I was sworn in, there was a 350% turnover on the attorneys in this office, which does not benefit victims. It does not benefit the taxpayers in Carroll County. Since in the last 4 years, we've lost one attorney, and she left to take a job that paid better, which is understandable. But other than that, all of our attorneys, we've been able to retain them. And that is, sorry, am I talking too much? I'll stop talking. I think in no small part, that is because this delegation has been so gracious and listening to the needs of our office and doing what we can. Even though we can't pay people really well, we have been able to put small little incentives in place to try to retain staff, and that has been extremely successful. So I feel fortunate to work with these people, and I would like to express my gratitude to all of you for supporting our office.
Thank you, County Attorney in Jersey. I see that Melanson and Heath has joined our meeting. I'm going to invite you back, as with the sheriff, at our next meeting so we can answer residual questions. If anybody has any questions specifically for the sheriff or county attorney, please send them to me and Melissa, and we will get you back that information before our next meeting so we can move forward with our budget. Thank you for the presentation, Sheriff Ricciardi and County Attorney in Jersey. Who is the representative from Melanson and Heath?
Hi there, this is Cheryl Burke from Melanson Heath. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am, and welcome back to our delegation meeting.
Great, thank you. And there's also Alyssa Samard here from our firm.
Welcome to you as well.
Yes, thank you for having us.
I can say that the delegation is pleased that the 2019 budget has been completed, and you're here to make your final presentation to the delegation, and we'd like to thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank
you. Is Melissa here? She has our presentation, I understand. Oh, there you go. If you could put that up on the screen for everyone to see, we will start there. the presentation is a high-level overview of the 2019 audit. It really summarizes what you need to know as those charged with governance. It also includes what we need to report to you, and that's in accordance with our auditing standards. So I'd like to walk through the presentation and then answer any questions at the end. Melissa, are you able to put that up there?
I apologize, Mr. Chairman. I would defer to the CFO. Does he have a file from Melanson for me?
Either that or Melissa, if you could share your screen with Alyssa, I think she could put it up there.
It was in the. It was attached to the email that CFO Cullen sent out a couple of days ago. Are you finding it, CFO? Okay, good. If not, I could screen share, but that'd be better if somebody else ran it.
Melissa, you should have
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, would it be okay if I just allowed for Melanson to present and gave them permission to screen share?
Of course. Please,
And
please proceed.
Melissa, you should have it now too.
Okay. Where did she go? Right. Sorry, I wasn't prepared, Mr. Chairman. Let me see what I can do.
No problem. No problem. I completely understand this was a,
Do you want me to screen share it? I have it right here, ready to go. But it seems silly for me to be doing it. Oh, good. There it are.
I can't see the presentation. Can you all?
Okay.
Yes, we can see it on screen share.
Oh, there we go. Okay, great. Thank you very much. And that's the for putting that up there for us. That is the cover page. If you wouldn't mind flipping to the next page, that starts with the audit summary. Ooh, it's all garbled.
Yeah.
You want me to try? I mean, if you can.
I have it available if I'm allowed to share my screen and.
I just want to, Mr. Chairman, I just want to make sure I'm doing this correctly. I'm a little caught off guard right now. So.
Melissa, just give them permission to use your screen. That's all you have to do.
Okay, and I thought I was doing that. I'm sorry.
Or Melissa, you can give Jerry Knirk the authority because I have it sitting right here ready to go.
Sorry.
It was the PowerPoint that was in CFO Cullen's email.
Right.
There were two of them. One did not open properly. The other one did for me.
And I'm sorry, I'm just trying to figure out how to give permission to Alyssa to do that. So.
Or, let's see.
My gosh.
actually, if you go to CFO Cullen's email sent on January 22 at 4:05, at the bottom is the PowerPoint presentation. Click that, and then you should be able to share that. For me, it was the one on the left. The one on the right did not open properly. 1:22 at 4:05 is when he sent that. I'm presuming Melanson folks at seven slides in this.
Correct.
Okay, yeah, that's because I opened it up and it opens for me. And Melissa, if you're still trying to figure out how to share, I think you go to participant and you give me the authority to do so, or permission is the word. Or are you finding CFO Cullen's email? Actually, I think I might be able to share the screen. Let me just try this. Okay, can you all see it now?
There you go. That worked. Yep.
Okay, so Melissa, don't worry about it. I've got it taken care of. Go.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And this 7-page PowerPoint presentation is, like I said before, a high-level overview of the 2019 audit. It really identifies the things that you need to know as those charged with governance. So starting on this page with the audit summary, the most important part of the financial statement audit is the auditor's opinion. The opinion that has been provided on the 2019 financial statements is what is called an unmodified or a clean audit opinion. It says that we believe your financial statements are materially fairly stated in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. So that opinion is giving a certain level of assurance on the numbers, the disclosures, and the presentation, and confirming that it is materially fairly stated in accordance with the accounting principles. In the middle of the page, we have a responsibility as your auditor under our auditing standards to communicate certain things to you as it relates to the financial statement audit. We've identified a couple of new GASB, Governmental Accounting Standards Board pronouncements that will be applicable in future years. As listed here, there were no new accounting standards that were required to be implemented in 2019. With respect to audit adjustments, if there were any material audit adjustments, we would need to report that to you. There were none during 2019. And the last bullet item on this page, we have a responsibility to report to you if there were any material weaknesses in internal controls. And we did identify that there was material weakness in internal controls over financial reporting, specifically related to lack of timely closing and financial reporting, cash reconciliations, and monitoring of financial processes. So it's important to note that a financial statement audit, it considers internal controls, but we do not provide an opinion on it. We use our understanding of your internal controls in order to design our tests so that we can provide an opinion on your financial statements. If you would flip to the next page, this is an excerpt from the financial statements, the fund balance financial statements, or the fund basis financial statements, and this is taken from the balance sheet. You can see that going down the left-hand side of the page, you have multiple categories of fund balance in the general fund, and then you have a small amount of fund balance under non-major governmental funds, and that represents your grant fund balance. balances at the end of the year. Particularly important to users of the financial statements in the general fund column is the unassigned fund balance, $4,563,136. So that's a very key number in financial reporting for governmental entities. And if you go to the next page, this is an excerpt from the management's discussion and analysis section that talks about the 2019 general fund unassigned fund balance compared to 2018, a decline of $155,391. But if you look at the percentages beneath those numbers, you can see that your unassigned fund balance at 12/31/19 is about 14.3% of your total budgeted expenditures, which is a fairly decent number. I've looked back to your financial statements from about 5 years prior to that, and it was in red. So a significant improvement over the last 5 years. The other thing to note about unassigned fund balance percentages, you're at 14.3% of budget. That represents about a month and a half worth of general fund expenditures. The GFOA, the Government Finance Officers Association, which is a national governmental organization, does have a recommendation for fund balances of the general fund. Their recommendation or best practice is to have 2 months of fund balance in 2 months of expenditures in your unassigned fund balance. So you're in pretty good shape there with the 1.5 months. On the next page, the changes in fund balance. So this is the income statement page of the financial statements, of the fund basis financial statements. And the third line up on the bottom is the change in fund balance. So you can see the general fund at 129, and then non-major governmental funds, which is your grant funds, pretty much break even there. On the next page, and these are all key pages of the financial statements that we're presenting here, the budget versus actual. So definitely a measure of performance here. If you have the original and final budget columns followed by the actual amounts, and then the far right column is the variance or the comparison of your actual amounts to your final budget. And up at the top, you can see that your general fund with the 972,120 took in more than was budgeted. Your grants fund had budgeted a significant amount of funding during 2019 at about 1.3 million, but that money didn't come in. And if you look down into the expenditures line items, you can see that money didn't come in, and it was also not expended. But overall, your budgetary excess is about $2 million in the positive. So it's a good reflection right there of your budget versus actual results. Are there any questions?
Shall I stop the screen share?
Please, Representative, I can't see who has their hand up.
Yes, there you go.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Any questions? Representative Bucco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, Mrs. Burke, for coming today. So this is my perennial question, which you've already answered. What is the unrestricted fund balance, and how much is it safe to apply to the budget to reduce taxes? What you're saying is that our percentage is where it should be, so that does that mean that we can't take anything out of there to reduce taxes?
At that point in time, if you can put whoever was sharing their screen, you can see all of the fund balances. So that dollar amount that I mentioned, the unassigned fund balance, did not even include the amount that you had already set aside to reduce taxes in 2020, and that number being $2.4 million. You have to go up a couple of pages. One more. Should be slide 3. There you go, right there. So right here is your general fund balance section. The total fund balance is $7,701,437. Within that total are different categories of fund balance. Non-spendable, that's the $84,000 that represents inventory. It's not converted to cash. restricted category represents external restrictions on fund balance, so deed surcharge and the DB fund. And then assigned represents internally restricted funds. So there's your 2.4 million that you set aside of the 7.7 million. That was to reduce taxes for your 2020 budget. You also had some money set aside for IDN, as well as 288,000 of encumbrances. So if you take the 7 million and you take all those things out, you still were left with 4.5 million, which is the 1.5 months that I had mentioned. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it certainly does. Thank you. It's quite a bit different than what it was when several years back when I was in the red. You said.
Right. Yep.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative Bucco. Representative Cordelli?
Thank you. And thank you to Lance and representatives for being here. I'm concerned about the time it has taken to do the audit for the past several years. The 2018 audit management letter really did not indicate any reason for the delays and did not mention anything about reconciliations or the problems therein, whereas this management letter, the draft we have, I'm not sure when we'll get the final management letter, but I'm concerned about that. And then also in the middle of the year, there was a email sent from Ms. Simard to our finance manager that the timing of the audit was consistent with past audits, and praising the finance manager and indicating that the start of the audit was delayed due to various things, not mentioning delay in reconciliations or anything else. But then 2 weeks later, Ms. Burke, we received your letter indicating that due to the county's lack of timeliness in the year-end closing, that it's was unable to perform the audit in line with the proposed time frame, and it has thrown your schedule for doing audits off because you had planned to do ours in the beginning of the year. So I'm confused about. It seems like going back and forth between there is a problem, there isn't a problem. We're on schedule based on the past, we're not. And, even just within a 2-week period, there seemed to be some, total 180-degree turn on the status of things.
Very, very briefly, we did establish a timeline that was agreed upon early on in the audit process. And we, because of the lack of the ability of the county to timely close the books and provide reconciliations, we were not unable to complete the audit. That is what happened with this year's audit. And this year's audit is a couple of months past the date that the last years before that were issued. But really, when an auditor gets to a position where the books haven't been closed, that accounts haven't been reconciled, you have a couple of options here. You can sit and wait until it is completed so that you can give a clean audit opinion on financial statements, or you have to disclaim an opinion. Basically, you're not provided with the evidence to provide an opinion. So there's a couple of options there, and I think the county made the right choice, taking the time to properly close the books and prepare the reconciliation so that you could have the clean audit opinion.
Follow through, Mike?
Quickly.
Thank you. We've received conflicting reports about the status of reconciliations, but you're indicating that you've provided a clean audit report result for 2019. And I think you're indicating that reconciliations for 2019 have been completed. Is that what I gather?
Correct. In order for us to be able to provide you with that clean audit opinion, ultimately those accounts had to be reconciled and the books had to be completed. So yes, that's correct.
Thank you. Commissioner Tesari, did you have a question?
I did. Thank you, Chairman Avellino. My question is, wondering who Melanson communicated with during the course of the representation to get the audit completed?
We communicated with the finance director and before the administrator had left, getting some feedback here. You all hear that?
Hold on a second.
Mute, Commissioner.
Okay. Primarily communication was with the finance director. We also had with the treasurers and some of the commissioners, I believe.
Hold on one second. Representative McConkey, could you mute yourself? Representative Bucco, can you mute yourself?
I think it may be Representative Tesari, because it happened when she left her microphone open. So she should mute at this point.
Commissioner Tesari, could you mute, please? Thank you.
Okay, go.
My apologies, Ms. Burke.
Thank you. And then later on in the process, after your new CFO was hired, we worked also with him to complete the audit.
Can I ask a follow-up?
Commissioner Tesari is asking for a follow-up.
Oh, my apologies. I didn't see her. Go right ahead, Commissioner.
My last question is, do you recall who specifically you asked the closing of the books from? Like, what representative of the county did you say, hey, listen, these books are late, we need them to close the audit?
I didn't speak to any representative directly, I don't believe. I know we had been sending on a number of occasions emails to the commissioners, and also I think there's an email for the delegations administrator. I think that's the email that we have been sending the updates to.
Did you have another follow-up, Commissioner Tesari?
I didn't, thank you, that was it.
You're welcome. Any further questions?
Mr. Chairman, Representative McConkey.
Go right ahead, Representative McConkey.
Thank you, and thank you for being available to take some of our questions. I'm probably a little more simplistic to many of you others when I look at these documents. But if I believe the first screen that I was shared with, thank you, Representative Knirk, it talked about that this was a high-level overview and of the financial statements. And geez, on first blush, boy, that sounds tremendous. When I dig into what high level is, it would appear to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, not an awful lot of detail was pulled. You accept the documents pretty much that you were given. It's a long view. I'm flying in a plane and I'm looking down and I'm not looking at details. And then later on, I hear a term introduced that this is a clean audit. Can you make me understand the difference between those two, or is that entirely different? Or are you, and I have a follow-up question after your answer, if I could, Mr. Chairman.
Of course.
I'm not sure I understand your question completely. I mean, I can certainly elaborate on what a clean or an unmodified audit opinion is. Is that what your question is?
Well, if I could, Mr. Chairman.
Of course.
You're a professional service, accounting team and so forth, auditors. Is this the same Passover review that you, I assume you work for other counties?
Correct.
You work for other counties?
Yes.
Okay. Do your other counties just ask for this same level of input, this high level overview? Is this typical?
The county clients that we have in New Hampshire, the presentations can vary. I've done a lot of in-person presentations, but due to COVID, we've kind of gone this way with the Zoom meetings and kind of the 7-page PowerPoint presentation. But I do have other counties, typically we don't. The presentations are to the commissioners and not the delegation. Not all of our county clients request a presentation of the audit. So there's a wide variety of what they like for their exit meeting or their recap of the audit.
If I could, that's not where I'm hoping to take the conversation. So when you refer to a high-level overview of the financial statements, is that your high-level overview is just how you present those numbers to a county, or is a high-level overview an indication of the depth that you put into looking at the numbers that you're presented? That's where I'm confused.
It's certainly, our audit is not a high-level overview, if that's what you're asking. It's very detailed and in-depth, and you can see by the number of pages in the audited financial statements, there's a lot to it, and it probably would take a long time to go through that. So the high-level overview terminology that I'm using, it primarily comes from what I had mentioned earlier, our auditing standards. So we're giving an opinion on your financial statements in accordance that they're materially fairly stated in accordance with accounting principles. So those are your guidelines or rules for financial reporting. We have the profession itself, the auditing profession has its own set of standards and guidelines on what is considered to be appropriate for a financial statement audit. And there is much to it. And there are certain things that we as auditors are required to report to you. One being the auditor's opinion, if we had any difficulties, material audit adjustments, if we have material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. So those are all the things that the auditing standards require us to report to you. And we do that in this is a high-level overview of those things we are required to report to you. They're also included in the governance letter, which is a separate document that's been provided to you.
If one more time, if I could, please.
Go ahead, Representative.
Is this level of review of our financial statements typical of what you provide for other counties? And I'm not saying your presentation. I'm saying in your, I don't see this as an audit. Audit seems like it goes deeper. Is this process that you use the same that you use for other counties?
Yes. All of our audits are conducted in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards.
Thank you.
Representative Marsh. You have to unmute yourself.
You're muted, Bill.
Yes, I'd like to explain Representative McConkey's question in a slightly different way because I think this is what we're actually getting at. One of the things that some of us have been looking at in the audit is whether the audit is going to give us information as to whether there are issues, particularly with material controls in the financial office. And with that in mind, could you explain to us the difference between this sort of audit, which is customary, I believe, for a annual yearly audit as opposed to a forensic audit that might be looking for whether certain bills have been paid inappropriately or to certain personal accounts or that sort of thing. So thank you for that.
So the type of audit that you have engaged us for, similar to what all of the counties in New Hampshire have, is what they call a financial statement audit. And with the objective of providing you with the opinion on the financial statements. As part of that, we have to design our audit procedures to provide reasonable assurance that your financial statements are materially fairly stated in accordance with your rules of the accounting principles. In doing that, we don't look at everything, but we do, as part of our auditing standards, we're required to obtain an understanding of your systems of internal control, whether they've been implemented. And we use that information, those two steps there in an audit, to determine what procedures we are going to perform in order to gather the evidence that we need under the auditing standards to be able to provide that opinion on your financial statements. So that kind of is the process for a financial statement audit. And what I had mentioned earlier in the presentation is it's a financial statement audit is you're not being engaged to report on internal controls. What we do report to you is anything that we noticed during the financial statement audit as part of understanding your system of internal control and using that to design our procedures. We do have to report to you anything that we note that is what they call a material weakness or significant deficiency. There's different types of audits. So there, you could have a separate internal control audit where an auditor would come in and do a more in-depth look at your system of internal controls and actually give you an opinion on it. And that's not part of this engagement. Does that answer your question?
Thank you. Follow up, Representative Marsh.
Yes, it does. And but I would like to ask in follow up. Customarily, when one does a financial statement audit, and if you were to note improprieties and internal controls or material deficiencies, that would lead you to recommend doing some subsequent procedure. I have been involved in other organizations where that happened, and that did not happen in this case. Is that correct?
We during the audit process, we identified a material weakness as I reported to you that there was lack of timely closure of the books and reconciliations and regular monitoring of those processes during the year. So even though there were material weaknesses identified in your system of internal controls, we were able, through different types of tests and confirmations and other procedures, to gather the information that we needed under our auditing standards to provide that opinion on your financial statements. If we had not been able to, we would have had to disclaim an opinion. So there were many procedures that had been performed in order to come to the conclusion that your financial statements are materially fairly stated.
And I thank you for that.
Thank you. Representative Cordelli.
Thank you. Thank you again. During the course of the year, we heard conflicting reports about the status of information flow that you requested and that the county supplied. And we've heard about the problem with reconciliations and so forth, but was there an issue with additional financial information that you needed to conduct the audit that we could not provide in a timely manner to you that delayed the process as well?
I know it wasn't just cash reconciliations that held up the audit. There were other things too, and I just don't know off the top of my head what supporting documentation we were waiting for. But I know we were waiting for other things too.
Thank you.
I was just wondering because, knowing that might help us in the financial area to make sure that information is available for next year's audit.
Yep, I mean, the recommendation of the material weakness is that, you should have trained staff that has the capacity to timely close the books. And year-end financial close does take a little bit longer than regular monthly close and financial information. So, that's the problem that should be addressed. If you can get that done more timely, you have your cash reconciled regularly, at least on a monthly basis, you would be in a much better position for getting the audit done more timely.
Thank you. 1 second, Representative Cordali. Representative Bucco.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can I ask, do you know off the top of your head approximately how many pages the actual financial audit is?
I actually have it right here. It's 47 pages.
So this high-level overview was actually a high-level overview of that document.
Correct.
Okay, that's what's causing confusion here.
Mm-hmm. Did you all receive that document?
I have not seen it. I don't know where it is.
No, I do not think we received it, and I think that is the confusion. We'd like to see the whole thing, not just the high level.
Well, that makes sense now.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Cullen, could you make sure that everybody, including the commissioners, has that available to them?
I believe you do. That is the financial statements that were sent to you. I'll double check that, but I believe that was part of the materials that you already received. I'll double check.
Thank you.
When you say sent, do you mean sent by mail or sent by email?
Mr. Chairman, I have that document in my possession, so I know it's been sent out.
I'm pretty sure we all have it, and it just might have been sent to different email addresses. Just want to make sure that everybody's given a chance to receive it again to continue the discussion. Representative Bucco, did you have a follow-up?
No, just if it could be sent again, because I'm not sure if I know where it is to find it right now.
Thank you. Representative Canuck, I'll get back to you, Representative Cordelli. Representative
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. Representative Canuck?
Sorry, I had gone back to mute. Yeah, what we got sent by CFO Cullen on the 22nd was the PowerPoint and the management letter, which is an 8-page letter, but not the 47-page or whatever you said document. I see a thumbs up. So are you finding that?
Thank you, Representative Canuck.
Yes, you'd received the draft version previously, which was unchanged from the final, but I will resend it right now. But the draft version, just like with the management letter, was unchanged.
Thank you. Did you have a follow-up, Representative Canuck?
No, I just gave the thumbs up sign. That everything's good. Thanks.
Beautiful. Thank you. Representative Cordelli, thank you for your patience.
Sure, thank you. With year-end closing, how long do you think that it should take a New Hampshire county to close their books?
I'm not sure I have a good answer for that. We have other county clients. Some of them are able to close their books rather quickly. Others take longer. Sometimes it's actuarial reports that are required to complete the financial statements that hold things up, and sometimes it's internal reasons that prevent it from happening quickly, timely. All of the counties, they're all similar in New Hampshire, but some of them are more complex than others, and they're all staffed differently. So it's really not able to compare them that well.
Follow? One more?
Quickly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Speaking of timely and quickness, reconciliations, cash reconciliations, how long do you expect that it would take to, let's say, do a reconciliation for the month of December? Any month, what would be I'm looking to see if is it a 2-hour process or a 2-week process to reconcile the cash for a month.
Cash is probably the most important area when it comes to financial reporting, and it's really critical that that be one of the first things that is done when you're closing your books, either on a monthly or an annual basis. We have clients generally, I mean, you get the bank statements or you get the bank information halfway through the subsequent month. I would say most counties, school districts, town, cities, other organizations within a month after that it's done. Sometimes it's 2 weeks to a month. It depends, and it also depends on the volume of cash accounts. I mean, some entities have 50 and others have 2. So, I mean, there's a big difference.
Thank you. I have one question for cash reconciliations. Did you means test the policies to the actual cash reconciliations as a means testing for this audit?
I'm sorry, I don't know what you mean, but by means testing, but we do test to all bank statements as of the end of the year. We test material reconciling items such as outstanding checks and deposits and transfers in transit, as well as doing a cash cutoff procedure before and after year end to make sure things are properly reported in the proper period. So that is kind of a summary of what is performed as it relates to cash procedures.
Thank you. And just a quick follow-up. Which departments had cash deposits that you would be able to at least identify for us today?
I know the Registry of Deeds does. I just don't know off the top of the head what your cash account structure. Just don't remember how many cash accounts you have and if you're using like one central depository account or if you're using multiples. I mean, I know there are a significant number of cash accounts. There are some departmental accounts as well.
Thank you for that. I'll follow up with CFO Colin on that. Any further questions for Ms. Burke?
No. Representative Nelson.
Representative Nelson.
Yes. How long should you wait for books to be closed? For example, if something's being done and they don't send you a bill for 2 months, should that be held as an expense, or I don't know how they do that. Is it an escrow, or what do you do with the money that's goes for the bill? Does it count to close the books?
That is one of the things that sometimes can hold up the closing of the books when you have vendors that aren't timely sending you invoices or bills. What most will do is, especially at year end, is hold the books open for maybe a month and a half, possibly 2 months. It really,
you're going to have someone draw you up another deed.
It really.
We don't do that. We're the recording office. We do the recording of the document.
I'm sorry, Ms. Burke. Could you hold on? Ms. Scott, thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Go right ahead.
So in the case where you don't actually have an invoice or something, so for instance, accountants, we sometimes don't bill for, a month out or a month and a half out. We've incurred these services. So what you would do is you would accrue on the books, not record the invoice, but kind of calculate what you think the liability is and book it to the period when the services are provided or the goods and services are provided. So that's accounting principles. So it's not when you receive the bill, it's when you incurred the service or you were provided the goods, regardless of when you get the bill for it.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Any further questions? Just a final one for me, Ms. Burke. As this is your last financial audit for the county, moving forward, what do you think we could do better as a county to facilitate our financial audits being completed in a more timely fashion?
The key again is to timely closing of the books and making sure that that is happening during the year on a monthly basis, so that when you come to the end of the year, you're not burdened with doing closing for multiple months. So it's something that you need to keep up with during the year. I think that will, if you can do that, you're going to find that your books can probably be closed much sooner after year end.
Thank you. Any other areas that you think we could do better in?
No, I think that really is, the cash reconciliations are part of that recommendation. Those are key. Somebody asked a question about that, to make sure that that is happening in a timely manner, that it's being done, that somebody outside or somebody who is not actually doing the reconciliation is looking at it and making sure it's happening, making sure that it's accurate. So monitoring is a very important part of any system of internal controls. So that is a very key area that you probably would want to make sure is effective.
Thank you. And any internal controls you think we could work on to make those areas work better?
Now you have a new CFO. I'm thinking you have somebody in your accounting department that can assume some of those responsibilities. So I think that you've taken that step. That's a step in the right direction.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions for Ms. Burke? Seeing none, I'd like to thank you for your service to our county for the last few years. I know coming to our delegation meetings, you face some tough questions, and I'd like to thank you for your candor and professionalism during our meetings.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to other business. The Commissioner McCarthy asked for some ideas for the new auditors, for some areas for them to look into on behalf of the delegation. I'd like to have a quick discussion on that. Is there anything that the delegation would like the new auditors to look into a little deeper than just a financial statement audit? Representative Cordelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think for me, one of the greatest areas of concern is credit card use. And in particular, I've looked at IT credit card use, and I'm concerned about that. Especially in relation to their contract and their responsibilities in terms of repair and purchase. And I'm not sure that the purchasing is in line with their contract. That's one thing that perhaps the auditor could look at.
Thank you. Anyone else have any ideas as well? Do you have a specific timeline, Glenn, for that? 1 year, 2 years?
Oh, yes, certainly a year is more than enough.
2020 or 2019?
2020.
Thank you. Anybody else? Oh. Mr. Cullen, I'm sorry. I'm moving the page.
Thank you. Just very briefly, I just did want to report to everybody that the 2020 audit is at least underway. We started just last week to send them some of the material they need to start that process. We're only 5% of the way through it, if you will, but I did want people to know that clearly the message about having this happen in a timely manner is very important and has been received. So we're starting to move that process forward as rapidly as we can. I see Representative Marsh is at.
Representative Marsh.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just like the CFO to tell everyone what he's told me regarding when the books are going to be closed.
Sure. We, as of last week, we cut what we hope will be some of the last checks that we are posting to 2020. We expect to have a soft close on the books not later than the end of February, move things into the hands of the auditors. I do want to just remind everybody, please expect that there will be more closing entries when that time comes than maybe we're used to, because we are accelerating this process and not, keeping the books open longer than they need to be.
Mr. Chairman?
Follow up, please.
Well, okay, everybody hold on. Representative Marsh, what's your follow-up?
Yes, and I'd like to ask CFO Cullen if he could respond to what's being done regarding credit card use in the county, because I believe that issue is also being addressed.
It is, and I think Representative Cordelli raises a very legitimate point there. The county has operated in a very decentralized basis for, I believe a long time. I think part of that was by design. That is to say, the commissioners have wanted it to be that way. I also think that the 2015 and the 2019 performance audits have suggested that we ought to be doing a lot more centralization of some of these functions. So one of the ways that decentralization has manifested itself is we've got, 8 or 10 different people who have ability to make purchases on credit cards. And yes, one of those includes a consultant in the IT department. Now, has it worked? Yeah, it's mostly worked. But I think some of the questions about control and accountability that have been raised are very much legitimate. So we are trying to move towards some more centralization, again, consistent with those performance audits, which have identified, systems that need to be improved, not once, but twice in the last 5 years.
Thank you. Representative Umberger. 1 second, Mr. Representative Kuko. Representative Umberger.
Yes. Can you tell us what company was hired to do the audit?
Sure. It is Batchelder and Associates. And, and so far we've had very good communication and, been responsive on both ends. They've absolutely been nudging me all along to get things to them. The fact that we didn't have our books, our closing entries done for 2019 until the last days of 2020 obviously meant, there were things that we couldn't get to them, which we have subsequently be getting to them. So the new firm, again, Batchelder and Associates.
Thank you. Representative Bucco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to have them focus on what Ms. Burke just said about closing the cash accounts or reconciling the cash accounts each month instead of just leaving them. Those performance audits that we did said that our cash accounts weren't reconciled for as much as 6 months at a time.
Was that the question or comment?
Well, I guess wherever it fits in, I just would like to focus. I want to just have a focus on to know whether those accounts are being reconciled each month instead of just letting them sit there for 6 months.
Thank you. I think CFO Cullen and the commissioners have heard our discussion today, and the top two things that we've been discussing for the last, I want to say, 2 years is the closing of the books, the reconciliations, and the cash reconciliations has been an ongoing issue for the last few years. 5, 6, 7 years. So I'm glad that the discussion took place today, and we'll be moving forward on that to with the new auditors are chomping at the bit to get the audit done. I'm excited that we might get it this year.
Mr. Chairman.
1 second, Treasurer Costello. CFO Cullen, could you relay to Commissioner McCarthy that the delegation would like the credit card use of 2020 audited?
I see a couple of the commissioners are here, but I'll make sure that point is brought to their attention again on Wednesday when they meet.
Thank you very much. Treasurer Costello.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just would like the delegation to know that as of this date, I do have completed monthly reconciliations of all the various departments that have deposit accounts, with the exception of the main account in the finance office. And I did just receive those reconciliations for the year 2019. So we are moving forward with all of this, and I do have documents to support this. And I agree that this needs to be done on a monthly basis, not waiting, 3, 4, 5 months to do this. And I suspect with working with CFO Cullen and the finance department that this process will get done in a regular, timely fashion. As you know, I've been harping about this for years, basically. And I'm very pleased that it's starting to come forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Cordelli, did you have a question? You're still muted.
Sorry. Really related to the new auditing firm and things that they might look at. And I'm not sure if they would be prepared to look at this as part of the financial audit, but I know there has been discussion back and forth between a number of people about the financial conversion within Avenue to the cloud from our in-house server, and the validation of the accuracy of the transfer of information, and that the final balance on our in-house server matches the initial balance of accounts in the cloud version of Avenue. In the contract with Avenue, it does mention a validation of the data, but the extent of that validation, I think, is in question.
Thank you, Representative Cordelli. I think that that can also be added to our request for the new auditors to look into to make sure that those numbers were matching. Could you add that to the list, CFO Cullen? Thank you. Seeing as we're in other business, anybody else have anything else?
For the CFO to make any kind of comment
on
the budget process?
If you would like, other business, sure.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that I appreciate our effort to lower spending and thus decrease revenue, but I don't think cutting the training and education lines in different specific budget areas is the best idea. I think, the goal of decreasing the amount to taxpayers is worthy, but I think it's just such a small part of our overall budget that it just will decrease the productivity and the ability to serve taxpayers. I think it'll make it harder for administrators and for our county to serve constituents properly. And they might feel as if, they're not getting the most bang for their buck, if you will, that their tax dollars aren't being invested in the best way. They can't be served with professionality and efficiency from the county. So I think we should try to preserve those funding lines that invest in our employees' training and education.
Representative Cordelli.
I would suggest that we might look at the increases from year to year in terms of actual spending for education and training, as well as many other appropriations and some of the dramatic increases there. And I certainly would welcome any suggestions from the representative about areas he thinks we should look at to cut.
Thank you. Do we have any other business to come before the committee? Convention? CFO Colin.
Mr. Chairman, is it appropriate to talk very briefly about the bond issue?
The bond for the nursing home?
Potentially, yes. Some of this material was circulated to the delegation last week. If I could address it briefly, I'd like to. And if you want to wait for another meeting, then obviously that can happen too.
If you could be brief, because I think we're going long. Oh no, we got a few minutes. Go right ahead.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. In the material, the packet that was mailed to you last week was some preliminary information, really not just preliminary, but sort of advanced down the road about two potential bonding projects. One would effectively refinance our existing bonds on the nursing home. And then there is a second project, which would be for you to consider, which is potentially bonding of the registry deed book issue. Critically, just thinking about the nursing home, cutting to the headline on it, we have the potential to save approximately $850,000 in interest payments over the remaining 9 years of our existing bonds by effectively refinancing them at today's lower rates. We do have a proposal that's based on a 2% redemption or issuing new bonds at 2%. It's possible we could do even better than that, but we don't know. There is, we could also, or interest rates could change in the wrong direction for us. So there is a one-page backgrounder on that for you in that packet, which lays that out. If this was something that you were going to move on, we have only 2 opportunities a year to redeem our existing bonds. Those are February 1st and August 1st. We're obviously going to miss the February 1st one. That's not a crisis, but we do have an opportunity to redeem our existing ones on August 1st. We'd have to have that lined up over the coming months so that we were ready to do it. So there's a detailed proposal there with all running the numbers, new amortization tables, showing you where those potential savings would come from in that material that was sent to you in that packet. In addition, the commissioners, Commissioner Platch in particular, had recommended that I reach out to the New Hampshire Municipal Bond Bank for a potential second opinion, if you will, and a second proposal. We did have a very fruitful conversation with them. Notes on that are included in that material I sent you as well. One thing I do want to bring your attention to, the bond bank just did their January issue a couple weeks ago. The rate on the 10-year bond was 0.81%. That's not 3.81. That's not 2.81. It's not 1.81. It is 0.81. And the 20-year bond was at 1.58%. And I'll pause there if you don't mind. I see that Treasurer Costello has his hand up, and he's obviously deeply involved in these things too. And with the chairman's permission, I might suggest he get the floor.
Treasurer Costello.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. CFO Cullen and I have been discussing this bond issue, and it seems like a very lucrative time to be able to do this, especially since we don't have to pay any prepayment penalty. I do think it's important that we try to deal through the New Hampshire Municipal Bond Bank, which is an association that I'm familiar with and have dealt with previously. I do think it's also important to look at this Registry of Deeds issue, because my contention is that if we can put these both together in one package, not 2 separate issues, hopefully, I think it's going to be even more advantageous, given the fact that the Registry of Deeds can support the repayment of their share of the transaction with the revenue that they turn in every year. So my point is, I think this is an important project for us to move forward to. I think that we need to get our ducks lined up. And I think we're almost there as far as the ducks go, but there's some details that we have to take care of yet. And I just would like the county's delegation's blessing for us to move forward on this, but not to, we're not in a position to actually request the delegation's approval for a dollar amount yet, because we haven't got to that point. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Knark.
Thank you very much. And I feel like after that last comment, I should be quacking. But in any case, I really do appreciate what CFO Cullen sent out. I looked at that. It makes perfect sense. And likewise, having read the email from Register Scott, that also makes perfect sense. And I think we really need to take advantage of these. I really appreciate all the work that CFO Cullen did putting this together and all of the detailed numbers. And I think we really, obviously we're not going to do the February, but I think we really ought to carefully consider this. And I would strongly consider moving forward with doing both of these. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Woodcock.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Collins, I also appreciate the information you sent out. It was an interesting read. It was terrific, actually. My question is February 1 too early for either of those, in your opinion?
Because there's going to be a public hearing, which actually the delegation would hold, and there's got to be duly noticed and all that, we are definitely too late for February 1st. We have plenty of time for the August 1st. That is to say, but let's not dilly-dally. Okay, let's keep that process moving. What would effectively happen is we would probably get a bridge loan, if you will, through another bond in July, so that we had the cash on hand to redeem the new bonds. We'll have all that. Well, it is kind of detailed in the material that I sent, but February 1st is definitely out. We can't hit that one at all.
Yeah, I was just concerned about the interest changing, but thank you.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Just a quick question, Treasurer. You mentioned there's no prepayment penalty, but is there a premium to pay off the bond?
If I may respond, there's no prepayment penalty because we've gone beyond the 10-year period.
Okay.
And so we don't get tagged with a penalty for that. Yes, we will have costs associated with the new issue, and that's pretty much a standard practice. I don't think it's an increased cost, but as CFO Fergus has indicated, we've got some hoops to jump through yet, and we'd like to keep this process moving forward with the blessing of the delegation. One of those hoops, as he indicated, is we're going to need a short-term bridge loan for maybe 30 to 40 days, 45 days, and that's going to be in the millions of dollars, which I believe we have a number of avenues that we can utilize that. But the bottom line to the whole thing, I don't see the bond rates increasing an awful lot. I do suspect they will tick up given the current economic conditions out there and what's going on. But if we're going to do a bond, boy, this is the time to do it as far as I'm concerned.
But, I guess my question is to redeem it, though, there's not going to be a premium to redeem it.
It's my understanding there is no premium to redeem the existing bonds. That's correct.
I don't get that.
And we will have a prepayment penalty with a new bond based on the term, and at some point that prepayment penalty will go away, just like it did on the current ones that we're looking at, or the current ones that we have. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you. CFO Cullen, the refinance of the nursing home bond, would that require a cash out, like your bridge loan, if we refinance that bond?
Yes, and if I can answer two questions at once, I guess. To Representative McAleer's point, there was a 10-year lockup period where we couldn't do anything to redeem our existing bonds, but that expired last August 1st. So that would have been our first opportunity to refinance that. So effectively what we'd have to do is we'd have to borrow for a period of, as the treasurer mentioned, probably about 30 days, the same amount of money that we're about to redeem for the new bonds as we issue, to redeem the old bonds as we issue the new ones. So we'd have, double interest, if you will, for a period of about 30 days. It amounts to something like $10,000 or $20,000. And the cost of doing all this, if you will, the closing costs, if you will, of refinancing the debt is probably going to be about $32,000. That's what we've been quoted. That being said, the savings is about $850,000 over 9 years. If we have a 2% rate, we may yet do better than that. So I do think this is something that the group is going to very much want to do. But we also want to make sure that everyone exactly understands all the numbers and the impact. This will not have any budget impact on 2021, I sort of regret to say. The reason for that is we have 2 interest payments and principal payments, February 1st, August 1st. Those are locked in. So the first time we would see the realized savings would be with the lower interest payment next February 1st, if we were to do this.
Thank you. 1 second, Representative Canuck. And we would have to budget for those additional interest costs in this budget, correct, for the bridge loan?
Well, that would be one option, but probably what you would do is you would include those in what you would finance. So you'd effectively roll your closing costs into the new bonds. You wouldn't have to come up with cash, which is what most people do when they refinance their house. You would have the choice of paying that money, but the savings are not going to be all that significant.
Thank you, Representative Canuck.
Just a real quick point I'd like to make to everybody. I presume that this good idea came from CFO Cullen. If it did, he's just paid his salary.
Success has many, many fathers. Treasurer Costello would be one of them for sure. And so
he'll pay his too.
But yes, if you want to look at it that way as getting me for free for the year, that's okay with me.
Thank you. Treasurer Costello.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I did want to mention the fact, as CFO Cullen has indicated, the cost of that bridge note can get folded into the new bond. So in reality, we're not going to be taking cash out of the 2020 or 21 budget, if you will, if we do it this way. And it seems to make sense because of the lower interest rate. And I'd be very surprised if we had a rate as high as 2% for this. I think it's going to be considerably lower. But again, I think what we're asking is the delegation's blessing to move this forward. And that's what I would like to see, so that we don't jump through all these hoops and then all of a sudden we decide we're not, that somebody decides we're not going to do this. So, but I just wanted to make sure that the delegation was on board. Thank you.
Thank you. So what you're looking for is you're looking for a vote at our next meeting to move this forward at least for the minimum time for the nursing home?
I think that I'd be looking for a vote. I don't know about CFO Cullen, but I think I'd be looking for a vote to do whatever is the best in this package for the county.
Duly noted. We'll take that up at our next meeting as well to make sure that we are moving forward in that direction.
Thank you.
So there's a clear direction for the CFO and the treasurer to move forward, and the commissioners, of course.
Yes.
Ms. Scott, you had a question?
I have a question for Fergus that I think makes a difference to the Registry of Deeds budget. If we moved forward with the bond and if it included funding for archival restoration of the records, would that funding be available for 2021?
I'm not sure. Could you rephrase the question?
If we move forward with the Registry of Deeds archival bonding wrapped up or not wrapped up within a bond, one bond or two bonds, would there be funding available in 2021 in this bond, or would that funding be for the subsequent year, in which case archival would need to be put back into the operating budget of the deeds, which it was taken out of?
Thank you. Yes, if we do this, we will get a pile of cash in the millions of dollars, which will arrive on or about August 15th.
Of this year?
Of this year. Yes, of this year. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further business? Seeing none, do we have any public input? Ms. Siemens?
Are we going to go into convention to approve all the things we did today?
No, we've been opening the meeting as at the convention.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
We've been opening our meetings for the last 2 years as the Carroll County Convention instead of the Carroll County Delegation.
Oh, okay, so everything we did today, I didn't catch that at the beginning, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Mr. Chairman, would it be okay to talk about briefly the setting of the next meeting, or do we need to wait? Just keeping in mind that I need 7 days to notice.
I was actually going to recess today's meeting so we could have a little more flexibility in our scheduling. I know everybody's committees are starting up the next week or two, and I know that there's going to be a lot of scheduling conflicts because I think they're working. I know some of us will be working Monday through Friday that we normally don't do. Does anybody have any specific days that they would like to see meetings scheduled for and/or times?
I'm more of an afternoons kind of guy like you know, so, or Mr. Chairman, so I would prefer to see that at least.
Thank you. Representative Umberger?
Yes, I attended a meeting this morning, and they're asking all of the committee chairmen to schedule their committees 2 weeks out.
Okay.
And so that should be helpful in trying to set a date for our county meetings. And many of the committees are meeting until like 2 or 2:30. And so, you know, we may have to even go or start that late, but that looked like maybe we can work it out in there.
Okay, I have no problem if everybody doesn't mind an late afternoon or early evening meeting. Representative Knark.
Yeah, yes, I agree. Our committee, we still have at this point no idea what day it's going to be, and I think that no matter what day we choose, given how things are working, we're going to lose a person or two, and that'll be a problem. Particularly, let's say HHSEA, you lose Bill and me both, and so I think actually setting it in very late afternoon or early evening would be a very good option. And I think it'll give us the best chance to optimize our attendance for the sake of the employees, where I hate to ask them to work the weird hours we might be working. I mean, perhaps it could be a 3 o'clock start, because these have been some long meetings, but other ones may not last as long. And so I would very much agree with Karen or whoever made it earlier, a late afternoon meeting to optimize attendance.
Thank you.
Or
Representative Case. Yep.
I think we should also try to be conscious of people who serve on local boards in their towns, because sometimes you'll have, a 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock meeting for a local community. So that's something that we should just keep aware.
Some of us are old and go to bed at 7.
Thank you, Representative Burrows.
I vote for doing this at 4 a.m. I have nothing else going on, but and if I might, Mr. Chairman, I've just had a request that perhaps the nursing home budget could be considered in its entirety. I know it's going into subcommittee and then needs to be presented to the full delegation, with keeping in mind that Administrator Chandler's last day is the 17th.
Thank you. I will ask the chairman of the nursing home subcommittee to schedule work on that with everyone to make sure that we get as much input as we can from Mr. Chandler before he leaves.
Mr. Chairman, we already have scheduled the nursing home subcommittee meeting and noticed it for February 3rd. And I've been in communication with CFO Cullen as to the additions to the budget to cover the expenses of the administrator leaving. So we are doing that. It's my hope if we work efficiently, we can go through the entire budget in one meeting, and I may just run the meeting late in order to do that.
Fantastic. Thank you. Does that satisfy that request, Ms. Siemens?
I think so. I think it was just a courtesy to Administrator Chandler to include him in the whole process.
And I agree with Ms. Siemens that meeting in the early morning works out nicely for me, but 3 o'clock might be a little bit too early. 6 o'clock I could do.
Thank you. All right, now that that is scheduled, the jail subcommittee, does that need to be moved? Just so for future scheduling purposes?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had set that for the 1st, and knowing that there is issue with that building right now, I was going to hold a day or so to find out if you think that should be moved or not, because that's still a convenient date on my side. What's your thought, Mr. Chairman? You're on the committee.
It is completely up to you, Mr. Chairman. It is your committee to run and schedule, and I would be happy to work with you as well to make sure that we can at least have some person that would be able to represent that budget for us to make sure that we can do our due diligence on it.
I totally agree. Let me get in contact with Pat tomorrow, a day after this, and see where he's at. Or do we have enough time? Melissa's still on there. Do we still have enough time to reschedule?
We only need 24 hours notice for subcommittees, so whatever you need to do.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.